Chapter 25:16. The elder from the Plum clan said, This person has just been recruited. We don't know his background and background. Moreover, he's an evil cultivator. How can Miss let it be your guard? Lucci's divine light swept over the recruited cultivators. She pouted and said, Mrs. Safety is very important. Naturally, she needs an expert to protect her in this trip to the ninth underworld. These cultivators all look like dogs, but who knows what kind of tricks they have in mind. The cultivators all smiled awkwardly. Lucci then pointed at Su Fong. Not only is he ugly, but he also looks poor. His strength is not bad either. I don't think it's a good idea to have him as your guard. Ugly? Poor? Su Fong helplessly touched the tip of his nose, feeling extremely depressed. The elder from the Plum clan could only agree. Fine. Then we'll give this cultivator named Su Tianyun to Mississippi. Thus, Su Fong became Miss Mei Shiuro's guard. Su Fong followed Lucci to the courtyard's backyard. Lucci put on a cold face and warned Su Fong, Su Tianyun, listen carefully. Miss is a noble. She's a divine phoenix on a branch, but you're a toad in a mud pit. If you're loyal to Miss, you'll naturally be rewarded. If you dare to have any evil thoughts, be careful that you'll be skinned alive. Su Fong nodded. I understand. I know what kind of person I am. How would I dare to have any evil thoughts about Miss? But in his heart, he thought, I don't have any evil thoughts about Miss Mei Shiuro, but I'm determined to get her plum's spiritual energy. Lucci continued to ask, Do you know why Miss wants you to be her guard? Su Fong was also puzzled. Why? Miss chose you to be her guard not because of your strength or your honest appearance, but because your surname is Su. Surname Su? Humph. The young Miss admires an expert with the surname Su. It's precisely because your surname is Su that the young Miss made your guard. However, that guy with the surname Su is like a divine sun in the sky, and you're like a firefly on the ground. There is no comparison. Su Fong came to a sudden realization and smiled bitterly again. Su Fong met Mei Shiuro again in the back hall of the mansion. Mei Shiuro's face was still covered by a veil. She asked Su Fong a few questions and gave Su Fong some pills. Then, she asked Lucci to arrange a place for Su Fong. She didn't put on the airs of a young lady from a powerful cultivation family. When Su Fong approached Mei Shiuro, the yang meridian in his body stirred again. This made him even more certain that the plum's spiritual energy could help him consolidate a yang meridian successfully. At the same time, it made him even more determined to get his hands on the plum's spiritual energy. Su Fong stayed in the inn that day. Approximately 10 days later, the powerhouses from the Duanmu Divine Clan and the Plum Divine Clan left the Sky Beacon Divine World with over 50 recruited powerhouses. They traveled through the sky, passed through the battlefield of the Two-Realm River, and entered the territory controlled by the Tao Defiance Alliance. At that moment, the most powerful middle-aged lady from the Plum Divine Clan, Madame Mei, put everyone into her magic treasure space. Then, she headed straight for the space-time node that led to Abyss. There were some special space-time nodes in Abyss. This was no longer a secret among the various god clans. With Madame Mei's cultivation base as a peak upper-rank lord level, she was basically unimpeded in the Tao Defiance Alliance's territory as long as she was not unlucky enough to run into the Tao Defiance Alliance's emperors. Approximately 30 years later, Su Fong and the others were released from Madame Mei's magic treasure space. Su Fong used his perfection-level ability to sense and discovered the dark clouds in the sky. There was also the soul rain falling from the sky, as well as the nether threads floating in the air. As it turned out, Madame Mei had already entered Abyss through the space-time node. Naturally, she was not in the Nether River. Instead, she was in the outer space-time of Abyss. This year, many human cultivators, Big Goblin, and even the Tao Defiance from the Tao Defiance Alliance, the Devil Tribe, and evil organizations from the Dark World had entered Abyss to search for treasures in the outer space-time node. Su Fong was rather curious. It's not that easy to enter the Nether River. Back then, Dixuan and the others entered the Nether River with a boundary breaker rune. I wonder what method the Duanmu Divine Clan and the Plum Divine Clan have to enter the Nether River and find the land of reincarnation. An elder from the Duanmu divine clan took out a leaf-shaped magic treasure. After activating it, the magic treasure turned into a 1,000-foot-long, withered yellow leaf. The divine might it released condensed into a barrier, blocking the nether threads and the soul rain that fell from the sky from time to time. Everyone, Madame May's divine light swept across the experts she had recruited. Her eyes shone with a sharp light, and she instantly looked very heroic. The cultivators who had been recruited all felt their hearts skip a beat. The pressure from a peak over God made them all tremble. Then, Madame May revealed the true purpose of this trip. The Plum Divine Clan has recruited all of you to come to Abyss, not to the outer space-time, but to enter the legendary Nether River and the land of reincarnation, the heavenly wheel of Yin Yang, to help an important person reincarnate. The cultivators who had been recruited all had their divine light transformed. The Nine Netherland and the legendary Nether River were two completely different things. The Nine Netherland usually referred to the outer area, where the danger was much lower. If one was lucky, one could even find treasures. However, the Nether River was different. It was the legendary river of reincarnation. Not to mention path integration cultivators. Even peerless overgods would find it difficult to escape once they fell into the heavenly wheel of reincarnation. One of the recruited overgods snorted. Madame May, this is different from what the Plum Divine Clan said when they recruited us. Could it be that the Plum Divine Clan intends to send us to our deaths in the Nether River and use us as cannon fodder? Madame May smiled casually. You must have misunderstood. Now that the heavenly wheel of reincarnation has shattered, the Nether River isn't as dangerous as the legends say, except for some remnant souls and nether monsters. Moreover, our clan has already made sufficient preparations to enter the Nether River this time. Why will we send you to your deaths? Seeing that everyone was skeptical, Madame May pointed at Mei Shiuro. This is my biological daughter. Moreover, she's the Tao companion of the Duanmu Divine Clan's peerless genius. She has such a noble status, but her cultivation base is only at the path integration realm. If the Nether River is really as dangerous as the legends say, why would I send her to her death in the Nether River? Only then did everyone dispel their doubts. Madame May struck while the iron was hot. As long as you return from the Nether River, I promise that each of you will receive an additional 10,000 creation sacred pills. My clan will also give a royal gray divine artifact as a reward for the one who contributed the most. Only then did the recruited overgod's expression soften. He nodded and said, in that case, there's no harm in me making a trip to the Nether River. The other cultivators agreed one after another. Next, Madame May took out pills and distributed them to the 50 or so recruited experts. Madame May explained that these pills were called Netherine pills. They were refined from spiritual items that contained Netherine Chi in the ninth underworld. The only use of a Netherine pill was that after swallowing it, the cultivator's aura would contain Netherine Chi. In this way, those nether souls and nether monsters would not attack the cultivators after entering the Nether River. Su Fong also received a Netherine pill and swallowed it without hesitation. However, he sneered in his heart. Netherine Chi is the aura of death. How can ordinary cultivators swallow it? Although the Netherine pill can avoid the attacks of ordinary nether souls and nether monsters, there will definitely be huge side effects in the cultivator's body. If one doesn't listen to the orders of the Duanmu Divine Clan and the Mei Clan in the Nether River, one will probably die before leaving the Nether River. This Madame May is really ruthless. No wonder she's so heartless even to her own daughter. Although Su Fong was well aware, he did not say anything. The side effects of the Netherine pill were not a threat to him at all. As for the other people's business, he could not be bothered. Suddenly, Su Fong raised his eyebrows and looked at Mei Shiuro's maidservant, Lu Qi. The corners of his lips curled up into a sneer. So that maidservant, Lu Qi, was secretly using talismans? She was communicating with someone. He did not know who that person was and what their purpose was. It seemed that this maidservant, Lu Qi, was not an ordinary person. Everyone sat down cross-legged and combined the power of the pills to change their aura of life. The netherine pill was indeed effective. After the combination, it was no longer the aura of life, but the cold netherine chi. About a month later, everyone combined the pills. Madame May and the Duanmu Divine Clan powerhouses were about to find a way to enter the Nether River. One of the Duanmu Divine Clan powerhouses took out a seed that looked like a peach pit. The patterns on it were like natural marks in the sky, exuding an ancient aura. No one knew what it was for. At that moment, Su Fong sensed two auras flying toward him from his right. If their speed was measured in nature, they would only be at the level of a godly venerable. However, in the abysmal land where the shackles were shocking, such speed was only at the level of a peak upper lord level powerhouse. One of the auras caused the heavenly secret life shrinking skill, Dao runes in the depths of Su Fong's divine aperture to flicker rapidly. In the end, it consolidated into the figure of a young man in white. Although it was not very familiar, it was not unfamiliar either. It was the aura of destiny from the imperial people's genius, Dishu. The other aura came from a powerhouse from the imperial people. His cultivation was not at peak lord level. He was only at the level of an ordinary upper lord level. However, he was even more insubstantial than a peak lord level powerhouse like Madame May. Clearly, he was a great powerhouse from the imperial people. Su Fong glanced at Lu Qi and immediately understood what was going on. Clearly, this maidservant had been bribed by Dishu. When Dishu learned that Mei Shuero was coming to the Abysmal Land, he had been waiting in the Abysmal Land for a long time. Subsequently, Madame May and the other lord-level powerhouses sensed the arrival of Dishu and the imperial people one after another. Their expressions changed instantly, as if they were facing a great enemy. "Miss May, it's you? I didn't expect to meet you in the Abysmal Land. What a coincidence." Chapter 25:17. This Dishu seems determined to get Mei Shuero's plum spiritual energy. Unfortunately, he met Su Fong. Su Fong watched coldly from the side. He knew Dishu's intentions and couldn't help but sneer in his heart. Dishu only dared to covet Mei Shuero's plum spiritual energy because he was relying on the power of the imperial people. If it weren't for the Duanmu Divine Clan, he would have snatched it long ago. However, the power that he relied on and the talent that he was so proud of were nothing to Su Fong. If he really angered Su Fong, he would kill this genius of the imperial people. What could the imperial people do to Su Fong? The Duanmu Divine Clan's elites were all shocked when they saw Dishu. After Duanmu Renjia died, Dishu openly pursued Mei Shuero. How could the Duanmu Divine Clan not know about this? If it were an ordinary person, the Duanmu Divine Clan would have beaten him to a pulp. However, who was Dishu? The Duanmu Divine Clan had no choice but to accept it. No matter how powerful the Duanmu Divine Clan was, how could they be compared to the imperial people? Fortunately, Mei Shuero rejected Dishu. Otherwise, the Duanmu Divine Clan would have lost all face. Now that Dishu suddenly appeared in the Nine Serenities, his motive was obvious. How could the Duanmu Divine Clan's elites be happy? Su Fong noticed that Mei Shuero's eyes were filled with hatred when she looked at Dishu. Madame May, on the other hand, was grinning from ear to ear. She looked at Dishu with sparkling eyes. To her, whether Mei Shuero was chosen by the Duanmu Divine Clan or Dishu, it was a great thing for the Mei clan. Moreover, Madame May obviously valued Dishu more. After all, the power of the imperial people was far greater than that of the Duanmu Divine Clan. Madame May obviously didn't care about Mei Shuero's life or death. When the recruited cultivators found out about Dishu's identity, they all looked at Dishu with reverence, as if they were beggars on the street who had seen the crown prince from the imperial palace. This young master just happened to be training in the Nine Netherland. I didn't expect to meet Miss May here. It seems like we were really fated. The moment Dishu appeared, his eyes were glued to Mei Shuero, treating everyone else as heir. An elder from the Duanmu Divine Clan snorted and said, "Prince Dishu, please conduct yourself with dignity. Miss May is the cultivation partner of our clan's young master, Duanmu Renjia." Only now did Dishu move his gaze away from Mei Shuero and look at the old man from the Duanmu Divine Clan, and he said in a dignified manner, Duanmu Rinja didn't have an engagement with young Miss May. Not to mention that Duanmu Rinjia is already a dead person now. Could it be that you intend to delay young Miss May's life? Although Mei Shiwero did not make a sound, her body was trembling and her eyes were filled with humiliation and powerlessness. Su Fong felt that the current Mei Shiwero was like an item that the Duanmu divine clan and Dishu were fighting over. A wave of helplessness and sympathy surged in Su Fong's heart. In a myriad of worlds, the law of the jungle was the law of the jungle. As the world changed continuously, the order of the human world became chaotic, and the rules were almost non-existent. Mei Shiwero had the plum bone jade body, which was the biggest sin. Furthermore, she had a mother who only wanted to climb up to a powerful force. What else could she do other than resign herself to fate? Next, Dishu proposed to enter the Nether River with everyone. He said that he had accepted a mission from the Yuan Tiangong and had to enter the Nether River. The expert from the Duanmu divine clan knew that Dishu's target was Mei Shiwero. Although he was furious, he had to grit his teeth and accept because he was wary of Dishu's identity and the peerless master god of the imperial people by his side. The expert from the Duanmu divine clan injected his magic power into the walnut-like seed. The walnut-like seed immediately shot out Xianguang and merged with the void. Crack! The walnut-like seed cracked open and a bud grew out of it. The void was actually torn open by the powerful force of the bud. Crack! 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 The bud grew crazily at an astonishing speed. In just a dozen breaths, it turned into a tree that was 10 feet tall. A huge crack was also forced open in the void by the tree. Through the crack, one could see an extraterritorial dimension. In it, a dark river flowed endlessly. Spirits bobbed up and down in the river, and the chi of the underworld filled the sky. It was the Nether River that was located in the deeper dimension of the 9 serenities. Let's go! Madame Mei was the first to enter the dimension of the Nether River through the crack. Su Fong followed Mei Shiwero and Lu Qi into the crack. The other experts also followed. Last was Dishu and the master god of the imperial people. After everyone had entered, the towering tree quickly withered and turned into ashes. The void quickly returned to its normal state. Once they entered the Nether River, except for Su Fong, the others looked serious and tried to restrain their auras. Even Dishu and the master god of the imperial people looked cautious. The underworld elixir that Madame Mei had given them was indeed extraordinary. It caused their auras to contain the chi of the underworld. Therefore, the spirits did not swarm toward them and avoided this big trouble. Dishu and the master god of the imperial people had obviously come prepared. They each took out a gray jade pendant and hung it on their waists. It immediately released a protective power that caused the spirits to avoid it. The Duanmu divine clan had gotten a map of the Nether River from somewhere. They quickly identified their location and flew along the Nether River toward the Yin-Yang heavenly wheel. The shackles on the Nether River were shocking. It was so cold that it could freeze people to death. Although they were not harassed by the spirits and underworld monsters, it was still difficult for them to move forward. They had to consume elixirs to replenish their energy. Along the way, Mei Shiwero was protected by 2 master gods of the Duanmu divine clan in turns. Of course, it was also to guard against Dishu. Therefore, she became the most relaxed person in the group. Su Fong, who had been taken in as Mei Shiwero's bodyguard, had become an idle person. He also happened to be free. Along the way, Dishu stuck close to Mei Shiwero like a sticky cake. The Duanmu divine clan masters were annoyed, but there was nothing they could do about it. About 50 years, the group finally arrived at the reincarnation platform. In the past, the red spider lily had been guarding the reincarnation platform. However, it was killed by Su Fong with the infinity wheel. Now, the reincarnation platform was no longer dangerous. Therefore, it became a place for the group to rest. After 50 years of flying, even the master gods could not bear it, let alone the virtual entity experts. The group found their own places on the reincarnation platform. They created formations and sat cross-legged in the formations. They consumed elixirs to recover. The Nether River did not pose any threat to Su Fong. In order not to arouse suspicion, he obediently created formations and consumed elixirs to recover. However, his attention was always on Mei Shuoro. Dishu and the Imperial People expert were far away from the group. They rested on a cliff on the reincarnation platform. 3 days later, Su Fong, who was resting in the formation, suddenly opened his eyes. Mei Shuoro stood up and quietly walked out of the formation. She flew toward the edge of cliff. After turning around the edge of the cliff, she saw Dishu standing on a rock with his hands behind his back. Mei Shuoro said, "Prince Dishu sent me a message with his primordial spirit. Why did you invite me here?" Dishu smiled. "I thought you wouldn't come. I didn't expect Miss Mei to come. I'm sure Miss Mei knows why I asked Miss Mei to come here." Mei Shuoro said faintly, "The reason why I came out is to make it clear to you. I won't become your concubine. I hope you can give up on this idea." Dishu's face turned gloomy. His tone also became cold. "Do you know the consequences of rejecting me? It's your great fortune that I've taken a fancy to you. However, you've repeatedly rejected my good intentions. Who do you think you are? You're just a plaything for a man to play with." Mei Shuoro revealed a mocking expression. Prince Dishu finally lost his patience. "You're revealing your ferocious side? Isn't it just death?" Mei Shuoro has long wanted to die. It's great that Prince Dishu can fulfill my wish. "You want to die? Isn't that easy? I can crush you to death with one finger. However, before you die, you have to give me Mei Lingji's temperament. Furthermore, you have to give me your body. Otherwise, wouldn't it be a pity for a beauty like you to die like this?" Dishu suddenly revealed a sinister smile. He looked at Mei Shuoro like a tiger staring at a lamb. "Prince Dishu, don't forget your identity." Mei Shuoro looked at Dishu in disbelief. She didn't expect that the usually handsome and refined genius of the Imperial People would suddenly become like this. After speaking, Mei Shuoro turned around and was about to leave the cliff. However, at this moment, Dishu suddenly took out a golden mirror. The golden xianguang that it released immediately enveloped the entire cliff. It turned into an independent space-time that was isolated from the outside world. Only then did Mei Shuoro become flustered. "Dishu, what are you doing?" Dishu smiled sinisterly. "What am I doing? Naturally, I'm taking your virginity and your Mei Lingji's temperament. Do you think I don't know why the Mei clan and Duanmu divine clan entered the Netherworld River? You'd rather give your Mei Lingji's temperament to that trash Duanmu Renjia to help his soul reincarnate than give it to me. Why should I be polite with you?" Mei Shuoro shouted thunderously. "Dishu, the experts of the Duanmu divine clan, are on this reincarnation stage. They can come at any time. At that time, even your identity as a genius of the Imperial People won't be able to protect you." Dishu snorted. "The Duanmu divine clan has already offended the Su Fong. How would they dare to offend the supreme Imperial People? You're just a sacrifice. Once I take your Mei Lingji's temperament, you'll lose your value. Why would the Duanmu divine clan fall out with me for you?" Mei Shuoro shouted angrily. "Dishu, you're shameless. A woman like you is born to be toyed with by men. This young master's status is noble. You being able to have intercourse with this young master is also a gift from this young master to you. How is this shameless?" Chapter 25:18. Whoosh. Dishu flicked his finger, creating a whirlwind that lifted the veil on Mei Shuoro's face, revealing a peerless face that could topple a nation. However, this peerless face was filled with despair. Any woman who encountered such a situation would feel despair. At this moment, Mei Shuoro felt as if she had fallen into an ice cave. Her heart and divine body were ice cold. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Dishu waved his hand, creating a xianguang that tore Mei Shuoro's robe into pieces, revealing her flawless body. Mei Shuoro closed her eyes. She didn't know why. At this moment, what flashed in her mind wasn't her mother, Madame Mei, nor were those experts from the Duanmu divine clan. Instead, it was the one she had seen with her own eyes. During the marriage ceremony between Di Yuan and Xuan Xin, that domineering figure that slaughtered everyone. At this moment, she really wanted a man like Su Fong to appear in front of her. Suddenly, Mei Shiuro's spirit was shaken as she shouted, "Dishu, you can't even touch a finger of mine. Otherwise, you'll be in big trouble and your life will be in danger." Dishu, who was taking off his robe, sneered in disdain. "Are you talking about your Mei clan or the Duanmu divine clan? Don't forget that this young master is a genius for the imperial people. There's no one and nothing that this young master is afraid of in the myriad of worlds." Mei Shiuero said proudly, "I'm a woman that Su Fong has taken a fancy to. Do you dare touch me? Don't tell me that you're not even afraid of Su Fong." Su Fong. Dishu couldn't help but shiver when he heard this name. Fear flashed in his eyes. He had witnessed Su Fong's might and domineering aura. How could Dishu not be afraid of Su Fong? However, he quickly returned to normal and coldly snorted. "Su Fong already has a Dao companion. Why would he take a fancy to you?" Mei Shiuero said, "If you can have a group of wives and concubines, why can't you have Su Fong? My appearance is not inferior to Xuanxin's, and I have a plum bone and jade body. What's so strange about Su Fong taking a fancy to me?" Dishu began to hesitate. When he heard the name Su Fong, he felt as if he was facing the strongest of the imperial people. Now that Su Fong was involved, how could he not hesitate? Seeing this, Mei Shiuero's heart began to burn with hope. Who knew in the next moment, Dishu became ferocious again. That's right, this young lord is indeed afraid of Su Fong. In the myriad worlds, even the Emperor Realm Masters are afraid of him. So how can this young lord not be afraid? This person will definitely seek revenge for the smallest grievance. If he finds out that this young master has touched his woman, this young master's life will be in danger. Moreover, how trustworthy are your words? No matter what, I won't let you off today, including your life." Dishu's eyes flashed with viciousness and madness. Mei Shiuero fell into despair once again. She didn't expect that mentioning Su Fong would drive Dishu even crazier. Suddenly, boom. The independent space-time created by Dishu's artifact suddenly shook violently. There were actually experts attacking the barrier from the outside. Mei Shiuero was surprised and delighted. "Dishu, if you stop now, I'll pretend that nothing happened." Dishu laughed complacently. "This young lord is like an arrow on the bow, and you actually want me to stop? Your Mei clan can't wait for you to become this young lord's plaything. Those Duanmu Divine Clan experts will definitely not be able to break through this young lord's artifact's divine power within 6 hours. After such a long time, this young lord should have finished enjoying himself. Ha ha ha." Outside the independent space-time created by Dishuan's artifact, the Duanmu Divine Clan experts were crazily attacking the barrier, revealing the independent space-time. However, it was unlikely that they would be able to break through the barrier in a short time. The Duanmu Divine Clan experts were furious, but the Mei Clan people just stood aside and watched as if this matter had nothing to do with them. The cultivators who were recruited also knew what was going on, and each of them had a strange expression on their faces. While the Duanmu Divine Clan's experts were attacking the barrier, the old man from the Monarch clan appeared. He unleashed his godly aura and repelled the 5 Duanmu Divine Clan's experts. "Why are you attacking young Master Disu's treasures?" One of the Duanmu Divine Clan experts shouted angrily. "Dishu kidnapped Miss Mei and tried to humiliate her. He's gone too far. How can the Duanmu Divine Clan tolerate him?" The Imperial People old man chuckled. "Who can be sure that it wasn't that girl from the Mei Clan who seduced our Prince Dishu?" The Duanmu Divine Clan experts were enraged and shouted angrily. The Imperial People old man laughed. "If you break through the barrier and see something you shouldn't see, the Imperial People will be fine, but the Duanmu Divine Clan's reputation will be ruined." The Duanmu Divine Clan experts were speechless. Although they were furious and humiliated, there was nothing they could do. Inside the barrier, Dishu's hands were reaching for Mei Shiuero's chest. Suddenly, an indifferent voice came from behind. "Prince Dishu is usually sanctimonious, but now he's acting like a beast. However, no matter how much of a beast you are, you should find a place where no one is around when you're doing something like this." Dishu's body stiffened, and a chill seeped out of his body. The evil smile on his face disappeared and was replaced by disbelief and fear. Disu could not believe that someone could sneak into the space-time that he had created with his magic treasure without him noticing. It was really incredible. He turned around abruptly and saw a middle-aged man with a face full of stubble and a face full of vicissitudes. Meishiro was also dumbfounded. Su Tianyun, how did you get in? Dishu grabbed a robe and put it on. He looked at Su Fong cautiously and cautiously. He found that Su Fong was only at the early stage of the Dao integration stage. He was even more incredulous. Su Fong said casually, "I'm not a rat. How could I sneak in? I was on a cliff. You were just blinded by lust and didn't notice me. How dare you mock me? Die." Dishu was shocked and angry. He immediately activated his artifact's power and was about to shackle Su Fong. Meishiro thought that her savior had arrived, but she was disappointed when she realized that Su Fong was only at the third stage of the Dao integration stage. An astonishing amount of dark energy erupted from Su Fong's body and blocked the artifact's power. Then he suddenly opened his mouth and spat out a stream of black, poisonous blood. Like a poisonous snake, it shot toward Dishu. A mere Dao integration stage, and wants to be a hero and save the damsel in distress? Dishu sneered disdainfully. He immediately activated his defense and formed a stretch of illusory mountains to isolate the poisonous blood. However, as soon as the poisonous blood touched Dishu's defense, it immediately corroded the defensive power of the mountains with a sizzling noise. The defense, which could at least defend against a full-force attack from a Dao integration pinnacle stage expert, was like a piece of paper at this moment. A hole was instantly corroded by the poisonous blood, and it hit Dishu's body. Dishu screamed. His skin and flesh immediately fell off layer by layer and rotted. In the blink of an eye, a bowl-sized wound was corroded on his abdomen, and it continued to spread. Dishu hurriedly took out an antidote pill and swallowed it. As expected of a supreme imperial people, the antidote pill was extremely effective. It quickly suppressed the demonic poison and stopped it from spreading. However, if he wanted to completely remove the demonic poison, he still needed to use his divine vitality to force it out. Dishu also didn't have time to activate his magic treasure to shackle Su Fong. Su Fong released a surge of divine might, and it seeped into Mei Shuiro's divine body to help her remove the shackles. After regaining her freedom, Mei Shuiro hurriedly took out clothes from her storage ring and put them on. She looked at Su Fong with gratitude and embarrassment in her eyes. How could she not be embarrassed to be seen naked by a middle-aged uncle? Dishu stared at Su Fong and gritted his teeth. "Do you know who I am? Do you know the price you'll have to pay for injuring me?" He was actually threatening Su Fong. Su Fong said coldly, "I only know that you're a beast. I don't need to know anything else. Do you know that the demonic poison I used just now wasn't even 1/10 of its power? If I used my full power, what would happen to you?" Dishu was so scared that he trembled. Then he snorted and said, "If you dare to injure me, the peerless experts of my race outside will pull out your tendons, skin you alive, and grind your bones to ashes. It seems that if I don't teach you a lesson, you'll really think that you can do whatever you want in this world. Can I really do anything to you?" Su Fong snorted inexplicably. Dishu had a bad feeling. "What are you going to do?" Su Fong suddenly waved his hand and rolled out a black cloud, which floated above Dishu's head. QL 11-inch, that's... Dishu suddenly thought of a legendary thing. In an instant, his divine light changed. He ignored the demonic poison in his body and activated his magic treasure with all his might, trying to destroy the black cloud. Chi! A black thunderbolt flashed out from the black cloud and landed on Dishu's body. Swish! 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 Then, black rain fell from the black cloud. The black lightning flashed wildly on Dishu's body. His skin was immediately scorched with black marks that looked like scars. His handsome face instantly became extremely ugly. When the black rain fell on his body, it immediately seeped into his skin, blood, flesh, divine apertures, and divine dwellings. An incomparably disgusting smell was instantly emitted from his body and immediately filled the entire space-time. Hwah! Dishu couldn't help but vomit loudly. Meishiro sealed her senses but still couldn't escape the disgusting smell. She could only cover her mouth with her hand, but it was useless. Heaven, filthy thunder fruit. It was a spiritual item that Su Fong had obtained from the Golden Rainbow King's world. It had no other use, but once it came into contact with someone, their entire body would be covered with ugly marks and emit an overwhelming stench. It was very difficult to wash it off in a short time. Su Fong didn't want to kill Dishu and incur the hatred of the imperial people again. The imperial people's genius Dishu Yuan had died in his hands. If he killed Dishu now, it would be strange if the imperial people didn't fight him to the death. However, this Dishu was really hateful. Su Fong took out the heaven filthy thunder fruit to punish him. Damn mercenary, you actually used the dirtiest heaven filthy thunder fruit to deal with me. I will definitely kill you. Dishu naturally knew of the heaven filthy thunder fruit's great reputation. He was scared out of his wits and hurriedly put away his magic treasure. The independent space-time instantly disappeared. The experts of the Plum clan, the Duanmu divine clan, the imperial people, and the many recruited cultivators were all paying attention to the barrier. Chapter 25:19. Everyone thought that they would be able to see a romantic scene between Dishu and Mei Shuero. But who knew? As soon as the barrier disappeared, a hideous monster covered in black lightning patterns flashed out. Soon after, a foul stench swept over. Everyone who was waiting for a good show was caught off guard and sucked in a breath of the stench. Such a stench was unbearable even for sovereigns. The stench caused their internal organs to churn. The maid named Lu Qi was excitedly waiting for Dishu to finish his deed and for Dishu to reward her. She grinned, her heart filled with joy and anticipation. Who would have thought that when she inhaled a mouthful of the stench made her unable to breathe properly, and she fainted. Everyone didn't understand, but when they saw Su Fong and Mei Shuero, they were shocked and stunned. Huel 11 Dishu let out an angry roar. Lord Dilin, this ant injured me with demonic poison and humiliated me with the heaven filth thunderfruit. Hurry up and kill him. Although the old imperial people didn't understand what had happened, when he heard that Dishu was injured, his eyes froze. His body flickered, and he appeared in front of Su Fong, raising his hand to smash Su Fong into smithereens. But when the old imperial people saw Su Fong's calm eyes and a cold smile, his heart skipped a beat. Then he suddenly thought of the heaven filth thunderfruit, and his heart skipped a beat. His hand stopped, and the divine might that was about to erupt also stopped. After carefully sizing up Su Fong, the old imperial people felt even more afraid. He immediately flashed to Dishu's side. "Young master, are your injuries serious?" Dishu said angrily, "Why didn't you kill that person?" The old imperial people secretly said, "This person is not to be trifled with. I'll explain to young master later." Although Dishu was furious, he had to listen to the old man. That's Prince Dishu of the imperial people? How did he suddenly become like this? Smelly, it's really too smelly. Could it be that Prince Dishu fell into the latrine and was just fished out? Isn't Miss Mei and Dishu doing that? Why is Su Tianyan also inside? Everyone moved away from the Dishu, afraid that they would faint from the stench. Everyone's behavior made Dishu so ashamed that he wanted to die. He wished he could jump into the Nether River and never come out again. The experts from the Plum clan and the Duanmu divine clan were also shocked. Madame Mei's face was gloomy as she coldly shouted at Su Fong and Mei Shuero, "What happened just now? Hurry up and tell me." Su Fong trembled as he replying to Madame, "Just now this lowly one accompanied young miss to meet Prince Dishu." Who would have thought that Prince Dishu somehow obtained the liquid refined from the heaven filthy thunderfruit and accidentally spilled it on himself? Thus he became like this. How could Madame Mei believe him? Murderous intent flashed across her eyes as she coldly shouted, "I paid you to protect young miss, but you offended Prince Dishu and brought disaster to our clan. You've reached the end of your life." Madame Mei's eyes shone with dazzling immortal light. She quickly condensed a palm seal and slapped it towards Su Fong fiercely. How could a Dao integration realm cultivator survive the attack of a peerless sovereign god? Mei Shuero flashed in front of Su Fong and shouted, "Mother, stop! Su Tianyin saved my life. Seeing that Mei Shiuro was about to be slapped to death, an expert from the Duanmu divine clan suddenly unleashed a boundless divine might and shattered the palm seal. That expert from the Duanmu divine clan snorted and said, "Not only is Su Tianyin innocent, but he has also contributed greatly. Madam Mei, why do you want to kill him? Could it be that Madam Mei wants her daughter to be humiliated by Dishu?" In order not to attract attention, the Duanmu divine clan did not send out their true experts this time. Madam Mei was the strongest among them. However, in front of an ancient divine clan like the Duanmu divine clan, strength did not mean anything. After being questioned by the expert from the Duanmu divine clan, Madam Mei immediately revealed a smile and said, "Lord, you must be joking. As a mother, why would I want my daughter to be humiliated?" Another expert from the Duanmu divine clan said in a cold and embarrassed voice, "Madam Mei, I advise you not to have any unrealistic thoughts. If anything happens to young Master Duanmu, Renjia's reincarnation, not only you, but the entire Mei clan will be in trouble." Madam Mei quickly smiled apologetically. That expert from the Duanmu divine clan looked at Su Fong and nodded in praise. "You're called Su Tianyin? You've done well this time. I'll reward you with 1,000 creation sacred pills. When you return to Yuan Tiangong, I'll let you join the Duanmu divine clan and become a foreign expert. Before you reach the Yin Yang heavenly wheel, you will not leave young Miss Mei's side. Do you hear me?" After saying that, he rolled up a storage ring and handed it to Su Fong. Su Fong grabbed the storage ring and put on a grateful expression. He quickly cupped his fists and said, "Thank you for your appreciation, Lord. I'll definitely follow your orders and protect young Miss Mei." Mei Shiuro looked at Su Fong. For a moment, she could not figure out Su Fong's depth. When they returned to the array formation, Mei Shiuro followed Su Fong into the array formation. She stared at Su Fong with a puzzled expression. "You're definitely not a simple mercenary. Your strength is definitely not at the third heaven of the Tao integration stage. Who exactly are you? Why did you join the Mei clan?" Su Fong did not try to hide it anymore. He went straight to the point. "Young Miss Mei's eyesight is very good. I joined the Mei clan and came to the 9 underworlds for another purpose. I'm here for young Miss Mei." Mei Shiuro's delicate body trembled. She smiled sadly. "Right now, I'm like a piece of fat meat. Everyone wants to take a bite out of me. The Duanmu divine clan, the Mei clan, the Dishu. Even you are the same." Su Fong revealed a domineering smile. "I'm different from them. I need your plum spirit energy. However, I won't take it by force. As long as you're willing to give me your plum spirit energy, I can give you everything you want." "Give me everything I want? How arrogant. Who do you think you are? Su Fong? Or the supreme existence of the imperial people?" Mei Shiuro revealed a disappointed expression. She obviously thought that Su Fong was bluffing to deceive her. "No matter what, I have to thank you this time. From now on, you have to be careful of the Dishu's revenge. It's best if you leave the 9 underworlds as soon as possible. That way, you might have a chance to survive." Mei Shiuro advised Su Fong. Then, she passed through the array formation without looking back. "I was actually looked down upon by a weak woman." Su Fong touched the tip of his nose and couldn't help but smile bitterly. However, he wasn't anxious at all. In any case, he had to make a trip to the Yin Yang heavenly wheel. Once he arrived at the Yin Yang heavenly wheel, it would mean that Mei Shiuro was at the end of her rope. She would naturally take the initiative to find him. If he obtained the plum spirit energy, Su Fong would naturally give Mei Shiuro benefits. At least, he could ensure that she wouldn't be trampled on like she was now. As for other thoughts, thinking of Mei Shiuro's graceful body, Su Fong's yang energy exploded in his body. However, Su Fong quickly got rid of these distracting thoughts. No matter how attractive Mei Shiuro was, she wasn't enough to move Su Fong's heart. On a cliff beside the reincarnation stage, Dishu impatiently asked, "Lord Dilin, what background do you think that mercenary has? Even you're afraid of him? Even if he's an Emperor Realm expert, you wouldn't be so apprehensive." The imperial people's eyes were filled with doubt. "I'm only guessing. I suspect that the mercenary might have some relationship with Su Fong." "Su Fong? Dishi was so frightened that he staggered. If it weren't for the fact that his face was covered with black lightning streaks that obscured his skin color, his face would definitely be pale. Young Master Su, think carefully about what happened during the Yuan Tiangong entrance test. Enter the Yuan Tiangong entrance test? At that time, the clan was focused on cultivating Di Yuan. The other geniuses of the clan were not allowed to enter the Yuan Tiangong entrance test. With the power of our clan, entering the Yuan Tiangong entrance test was meaningless. Lord Di Lin, why did you suddenly mention the entrance test? Prince Dishu, think carefully. Su Fong once crossed swords with Sanskrit's genius, Fan Shu. Fan Shu? That person's talent was extraordinary. Unfortunately, he met Su Fong and died mysteriously. Some people suspect that it was Su Fong who did it. During the entrance test, Fan Shu was defeated by Su Fong with the Heaven Filth Thunder Fruit. Su Fong once used the Heaven Filth Thunder Fruit to make Fan Shu the laughingstock of many geniuses. Dishu recalled the past and suddenly understood. His whole body trembled. That's right. As far as I know, there's only one Heaven Filth Thunder tree in the outer area of the exalted celestial mountain. There is absolutely no such spiritual item in any other place in the universe. In the past, there was a bandit called the Golden Rainbow King who entered the exalted celestial mountain with the help of the sun-piercing Golden Rainbow King. Su Fong obtained the Golden Rainbow King's treasure. It is not surprising that he has the Heaven Filth Thunder Fruit. Where did that mere mercenary get the Heaven Filth Lightning Fruit from? Dishu was terrified. Could it be that mercenary was Su Fong in disguise? Damn it, why did that bastard disguise himself as a mercenary and come to the 9 Serenities? Let's go. Leave the 9 Serenities quickly. The old imperial people named Di Lin shook his head and said, this is just my guess. Young Master Su, don't be afraid. That mercenary is definitely not Su Fong. With his current strength and status, why would he do something so senseless? Dishu thought about it carefully and found it reasonable. With Su Fong's current strength, he could even kill a venerable emperor. Why would he disguise himself as a mercenary and mingle with the Duanmu Divine Clan and the Plum Plum Clan? Unless he had nothing better to do. Only then did he calm down. As long as he did not encounter Su Fong, he would not be afraid even if he faced a peerless venerable emperor. Maybe that mercenary is related to Su Fong. Maybe he is a slave master under Su Fong and got the Heaven Filth Thunder Fruit from Su Fong. Maybe I guessed wrong, and that mercenary got it from other channels. Humph, this young master is afraid of Su Fong. But why would I be afraid of a slave under Su Fong? No matter who that Su Tianyun is, young master Su must be careful. Once we get the plum spiritual energy, we will leave the 9 Serenities immediately. If I knew it would be so troublesome, I would have directly kidnapped that bitch outside and taken her plum spiritual energy. The Duanmu Divine Clan is quite powerful in the myriad worlds. Young Master Su, you must be careful when you act. If you cause the Duanmu Divine Clan and the Imperial people to be at odds with each other, the gains will not make up for the losses. If you attract the attention of the supreme masters of my clan, it may bring you a lot of trouble. This young master is determined to get the plum spiritual energy. Dishu's eyes were filled with murderous intent. His murderous aura and stench kept gushing out his body. And that mercenary Su Tanyun, as long as he is not Su Fong and dares to ruin this young master's plans, this young master will never let him live. Young Master Su, recover first and force the demonic poison out of your body. I will take a look around. Chapter 25:20. Rest and recuperate in the reincarnation stage for 10 years. Before leaving, Mei Shuuro once again came to the formation where Su Fong was. Su Tianyun, what you said before, is it true? The closer they were to the yin-yang heavenly wheel, the more anxious Mei Shuuro became. At this time, she had no choice but to treat Su Fong as her last hope. Su Fong nodded and said with a smile, of course. If you give me the plum spiritual energy, I will give you what you want. I can promise you this. Mei Shuuro hesitated and said, Lord Su Tianyun, I know you have hidden your strength. But even if you were a supreme sovereign, you can't go against the Duanmu divine clan and the supreme imperial people. Su Fong revealed a domineering smile. The Duanmu divine clan and the imperial people can't stop me from doing what I want to do. Mei Shuuro hesitated for a long time and finally said resolutely, "You saved me once. This time, I will believe you. Take me out of the 9 underworlds immediately, and I will give you the plum spiritual energy." Then her beautiful face blushed and she stammered, "I can give you the plum spiritual energy, but you can't take my virginity. This is my last request." Looking at the shy beauty, Su Fong's yang qi exploded in his body again. His heart was beating fast. It couldn't be helped. Gods also had 7 emotions and 6 desires. Moreover, he cultivated the pure yang body. Su Fong suppressed the restless desire in his heart and nodded. "I can promise. I can also promise that the Duanmu divine clan, the imperial people, and your mother will not make things difficult for you in the future." Mei Shuuro was skeptical, but she had no other choice now. She could only choose to believe Su Fong. She asked, "When do you plan to take me out of the 9 underworlds?" "When we go to the yin-yang heavenly wheel and help one of my loved ones reincarnate, I will take you out of the 9 underworlds." Mei Shuuro's face turned pale. You want to go to the yin-yang heavenly wheel? Don't worry. With me around, Dishu won't dare to touch you. The Duanmu divine clan won't do anything to you unless they don't want Duanmu Renjia to be reincarnated, Su Fong said domineeringly. He paused for a while and explained, "I know the master who controls the yin-yang heavenly wheel. The Duanmu divine clan won't dare to offend me." Mei Shuuro stared at Su Fong, dumbfounded. Originally, she still had a little bit of confidence in Su Fong. Now that she heard Su Fong's words, her confidence instantly collapsed. This boast was too big. Su Fong casually smiled. Of course, he knew what Mei Shuuro was thinking, but he did not expose her. In fact, the easiest way was to reveal his identity. Would the Duanmu divine clan and Disu dare to compete with him? Then, Mei Shuuro would definitely agree without hesitation. She might even take the initiative to throw herself into his arms. But that was the problem. With Su Fong's current status, his every move would be magnified. Once the news got out that Su Fong was fighting with the imperial people and the Duanmu divine clan for a woman, he wouldn't be able to clear his name even if he jumped into the Netherworld River. Su Fong didn't care about how others looked at him or talked about him. It would be troublesome if Xuanqin heard about it. Xuanqin had suffered a lot because of him. He didn't want Xuanqin to bear any grudges. Mei Shuuro worshipped Su Fong blindly. Once his identity was exposed and she stuck to him, it would be more troublesome. Su Fong admired this woman. Which man didn't like beautiful women? But appreciation was appreciation. Su Fong did not want to have any emotional entanglements. He still felt guilty about Xiao Mei-er. He also didn't know what happened between him and Goddess Luo. How could Su Fong be tempted by other women? After resting for a while, the team continued their journey to the yin-yang heavenly wheel. The journey was quite smooth. Even the extremely dangerous soul-sinking beach was passed through safely as the Duanmu divine clan and the Plum clan were prepared. Disu was still following the Duanmu divine clan and the Plum clan's team. No one knew what method he used to suppress the stench of the heaven-filth thunder fruit. Although the stench was still unbearable, it was no longer as smelly as before. But this time, he didn't get close to Mei Shuuro. He didn't want to leave either. Obviously, he didn't want to give up, but he was afraid of Su Fong. He didn't dare to use his identity to force Mei Shuuro. They arrived in an area with broken space-time. The surging Netherworld River was frozen. There were floating ice cubes everywhere. They emitted cold and death aura. They distorted the senses and suppressed the primordial spirit. Su Fong was familiar with this place. It was the broken world of Huan Ming D. Venerable. Huan Ming D. Venerable was one of the 9 great underworld venerables. He was best at creating illusions. After his death, the world in his body was broken and turned into this dangerous place. It was easy to imagine how dangerous it was to trap a venerable emperor. Su Fong had been trapped here before. If he hadn't been lucky enough to have the broken illusory south-pointing chariot. He would have been trapped here. Later, he used this place to trap the three venerable emperors of the Tao Defiance. The experts of the Duanmu Divine Clan and the Mei Clan, as well as the recruited experts, were cautious. They didn't know that they were walking into a powerful illusion. Su Fong noticed that Di Su and the expert from the Monarch clan were clearly aware of the danger here. Their eyes were filled with cold smiles, as if they were waiting to watch a good show. Dishuan might have been here before. It's not surprising that the imperial people know about this dangerous place. Dishu must have made thorough preparations in advance. That's why he's so fearless. It's a pity that he met me this time. Su Fong sneered in his heart. He didn't remind the others. As they went deeper into Huan Ming Di Venerable's broken world, they encountered more and more ice cubes and ice walls along the way. The ice fog also became thicker. Madame Mei and the experts of the Duanmu Divine Clan realized that something was wrong. Madame Mei used all kinds of methods. She also performed supreme divine abilities and activated powerful magic treasures. She even sent experts to explore the way. In the end, she failed. Everyone started to panic. Dishu and the old imperial people looked on coldly. Madame Mei realized something and asked, "Prince Dishu, do you know what this place is?" The old man from the imperial clan, called Di Lin, laughed coldly and said, "This is an illusory place formed from the shattered world within the body of one of the 9 nether exalts, Imperial Exalt Huan Ming, after he perished." Supposedly, Su Fong had utilized this place to trap 3 experts of the Tao Defiance Alliance here, and they would have been trapped here alive if the Tao Defiance Alliance master hadn't acted personally. "Don't waste your energy." Everyone panicked. Madame Mei's expression was grave. She asked in a low voice, "Prince Dishu should have a way out of here, right?" Dishu chuckled. "I knew this place was dangerous, but I still dared to enter. Of course, I have a way out. But why should I save you?" Then he glanced at Mei Shiuero and chuckled. How could they not understand what he meant? Mei Shiuero panicked, but when she saw Su Fong's calm eyes, she calmed down a lot. The experts of the Duanmu Divine Clan were naturally unwilling to give up. They continued to send out experts. Even a Duanmu Divine Clan's overgod was sent out in an attempt to find a way out. QL11 in the end, it wasn't just the experts they recruited. Even the Duanmu Divine Clan's overgod disappeared without a trace in the vast, illusory land. Dishu smiled proudly. "Take your time to find a way out. I'm not in a hurry." Madame Mei and the experts of the Duanmu Divine Clan discussed several times. In the end, the experts of the Duanmu Divine Clan had no choice but to compromise. Although Duanmu Renjie's reincarnation was important, these overgods were even more important to the Duanmu Divine Clan. If all of them were trapped in the broken world of Huan Ming Di Venerable, they wouldn't be able to protect themselves, let alone Duanmu Renjie's reincarnation. Moreover, even without the plum spirit Qi, Duanmu Renjie could still be reincarnated. It was just that the reincarnated Duanmu Renjie's cultivation talent would be slightly inferior. Madame Mei looked at Mei Shiuero and said, "Shiuero, for the sake of the Mei clan, I can only let you suffer. Being Prince Dishu's concubine isn't a grievance. On the contrary, it's your supreme fortune. Mother, I'm your daughter, your biological daughter. How can you treat me like this?" Mei Shiuero's body trembled as she fell into endless despair. Madame Mei snorted coldly as a layer of frost appeared on her face. The other experts of the Mei clan and Duanmu Divine Clan were all expressionless. It was as if it was normal for them to abandon Mei Shiuero. Dishu's burning gaze wandered around Mei Shiuero's body. His eyes revealed undisguised greed and complacency. Then he looked at Su Fong. His gaze suddenly turned cold. "The Mei clan took the initiative to give Mei Shiuero to me. Now, you have nothing to say, right? This young master can take everyone away, but only you. Stay obediently in this broken world of sovereign Huan Ming and slowly wait for your death." Many of the recruited cultivators looked at Su Fong with eyes full of sympathy. There were also some who gloated. Su Fong had become Mei Shiuero's bodyguard, and because he had saved Mei Shiuero, he had been rewarded by the experts of the Duanmu Divine Clan. This had long made the other cultivators jealous. Now that Su had left Su Fong alone in this illusory realm, many cultivators were delighted. Su Fong sighed in his heart. He used a gust of nether energy to wrap around Mei Shuoro. In a flash, they entered behind an ice wall and disappeared without a trace. Everyone was shocked and astonished. Dishu shouted angrily, "Aunt, you're courting death." The imperial people's elder smiled faintly and transmitted a message to Dishu. "Don't worry, young master. They can't escape from this broken world of Huan Ming the Venerable." Mei Shuoro didn't expect Su Fong to attack. After a moment of panic, she calmed down and smiled bitterly. "It's better to die here than to fall into Dishu's hands." "Die here? If I don't let you die, how can you die?" Su Fong said domineeringly. The power of the world of yin and yang surged out of his body and enveloped Mei Shuoro. At this moment, Su Fong and Mei Shuoro had transcended heaven and earth. Even the heavenly Tao couldn't shackle them. Huan Ming the Venerable's broken world couldn't affect them at all. When the two appeared, they were already above the Nether River. Mei Shuoro's eyes were filled with shock. She said in disbelief, You took me out of Huan Ming the Venerable's broken world. How did you do it?" Su Fong was about to speak when he suddenly raised his eyebrows and looked into the distance. Mei Shuoro looked in the direction Su Fong was looking. A Buddhist light appeared in an instant, dispelling the death energy in the Nether River. A sacred aura shrouded the surroundings, forming a boundless Buddhist light world. The Mirage of Buddhist Light. Chapter 25-21. The Mirage Buddha Light Kingdom. It's the legendary Mirage Buddha Light Kingdom. Mei Shuoro was overjoyed. She knelt in the direction of the Mirage Buddha Light Kingdom, her face full of reverence and devotion. Countless nether souls and nether monsters surged towards the direction of the Mirage Buddha Light Kingdom like a tide. They were densely packed and looked terrifying. Bathed in Buddha light, the nether souls and nether monsters lost their usual coldness and silence. They all bowed toward the Mirage Buddha Light Kingdom. Seeing that Su Fong didn't move, Mei Shuoro hurriedly said, "Su Tianyun, the legendary Mirage Buddha Light Kingdom, is the place of Ksitigarbha Buddha. Hurry up and kneel." Su Fong smiled. "If Ksitigarbha Buddha is here, of course, I will bow to him. However, only the people in the Mirage Buddha Light Kingdom are bowing to me. There's no reason for me to bow to the Mirage Buddha Light Kingdom. You are too arrogant. How dare you disrespect Ksitigarbha Buddha?" Mei Shuoro stared at Su Fong, dumbfounded. She was frightened by Su Fong's words. At this moment, whoosh, a white Xian Guang flashed out of the broken world of the Mirage Puppet. When the Xian Guang dissipated, Dishu, the old imperial people, the masters of the Duanmu divine clan, the Mei clan, and the recruited cultivators all appeared. The old imperial people held a fist-sized white pearl in his hand. It was a divine creation artifact. He had used this Dharma treasure to get everyone out of the Mirage Puppet's world. That mercenary took Mei Shuoro out of the broken world of the Mirage Puppet so easily. The old imperial people had used the Pearl Dharma treasure to pass through the layers of illusions in the Mirage Puppet's world. He didn't sense Su Fong and Mei Shuoro's aura and guessed that they might have escaped. However, that was just a guess. Even the old imperial people didn't dare to believe it. Unexpectedly, the two of them actually walked out of the Phantom Clan world, which shocked the imperial people even more and made them even more wary of Su Fong. They hurriedly sent a message to Dishu to stop Dishu from attacking Su Fong. When the others saw Su Fong and Mei Shuoro, they were also in disbelief. At this moment, Su Fong became more and more unfathomable in their hearts. Immediately after, everyone discovered the Mirage Buddha Light Kingdom. Mirage of Buddha Light. I heard that the Buddha's Light Mound Kingdom has treasures left behind by the Ksitigarbha Buddha, as well as all sorts of fortunes. Even if you are baptized by the Buddha's light, you will obtain a great fortune. It's said that when Di Xuan, Su Fong, and the others entered the ninth underworld, the Mirage of Buddha Light appeared once. It actually appeared again this time. The recruited cultivators were all shocked and excited. Without hesitation, they flew in the direction of the Mirage Buddha Light Kingdom. Dishu was also very excited. Dixuan and the others entered the Mirage Buddha Light Kingdom last time and obtained a great fortune. He naturally knew very well that the Mirage Buddha Light Kingdom appeared again this time. How could he miss it? The elites of the Mei clan and the Duanmu Divine clan were full of anticipation and excitement as they flew in that direction. Even the old imperial people didn't want to fall behind. Su Fong was the only one who didn't move. Mei Shiuro's maid urged Mei Shiuro, "Miss, let's quickly enter the Mirage Buddha Light Kingdom. Perhaps there will be a great fortune." Mei Shiuro's heart thumped. Seeing that Su Fong didn't intend to move, she asked in surprise, "Su Tianyun, you're actually not interested in the treasures of the Mirage Buddha Light Kingdom?" Su Fong shook his head and smiled. "There aren't any treasures left in the Mirage Buddha Light Kingdom. Even if there are treasures and fortunes, they're useless to me." He was speaking the truth. He had even absorbed the Permitha Saraira of the Ksitigarbha Buddha. What else in the Mirage Buddha Light Kingdom could attract him? Lu Qi snorted derisively at his words. Whoosh! A beam of golden Buddhist light surged out of the Mirage Buddha Light Kingdom and quickly condensed into a huge golden Buddha figure that sat cross-legged on a lotus pedestal. The golden Buddha gave off a sacred and dignified aura. There was a huge halo of Buddhist light above his head. The Buddhist light was blinding, and the lotus pedestal also gave off pure white light, making it difficult for others to see his face. The lotus pedestal suddenly moved and slowly flew over. The golden Buddha and lotus pedestal gave off a dignified aura that made the countless underworld souls and underworld monsters, as well as the cultivators, except for a few overgods and Dishu, worship the golden Buddha devoutly. Dishu and the other overgods had to lower their heads as well. Their eyes were filled with reverence. Instantly, the entire underworld river was filled with kneeling figures. It was a magnificent sight. Su Fongda saw through the Buddhist light with his perfect transcendental vision and saw that the golden Buddha on the lotus pedestal was Qiangang. He nodded to himself and said, "It looks like Qiangang has already digested the Ksitigarbha Buddha's legacy. His strength has improved by leaps and bounds. But what is he trying to do by making such a big fuss? Is that golden Buddha the Ksitigarbha Buddha? It must be the Ksitigarbha Buddha who came out of the Mirage Buddha Light Kingdom. Why has he appeared? Something seems off. That golden Buddha is flying towards Fong Tianyun. Could it be that Fong Tianyun has offended the Ksitigarbha Buddha and is about to be punished by him?" The cultivators discussed spiritedly. They could not figure out the golden Buddha's intentions. The golden Buddha that Qiangang had transformed into flew over 3,000 feet away from Su Fong and stopped. Mei Shiuro and Lu Qi were so nervous that they almost suffocated. They knelt in the air and trembled all over. The golden Buddha stood up from the lotus pedestal, then walked down the lotus pedestal and walked towards Su Fong step by step. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the golden Buddha knelt in the air towards Su Fong. His hands were in the air, and the top of his head was facing Su Fong. He was actually bowing to Su Fong with the highest etiquette of Buddhist cultivators. Countless nether souls and nether monsters saw the golden Buddha bowing to Su Fong, and they also followed suit and knelt to Su Fong. The golden Buddha bowed, and thousands of souls bowed. Many cultivators, including Dishu and those overgod powerhouses, were surprised and shocked. They were dumbfounded. Who is that Fong Tianyun? How can he make the Ksitigarbha Buddha bow to him? Could Fong Tianyun be a venerable emperor powerhouse? What right does a venerable emperor powerhouse have to make the Ksitigarbha Buddha bow to him? Even the supreme powerhouses of the imperial people do not have this right. Everyone was completely dumbfounded. Those cultivators who had mocked Su Fong before, especially the maidservant Lu Qi, were trembling in fear. They were afraid that Su Fong would descend upon them with the wrath of thunder. Su Fong sent a voice transmission to Qiangang. "Qiangang, what are you doing?" Qiangang replied respectfully, "You have saved my life many times, and you have merged with the Nirvana Buddha Sarira of the Lord Buddha, which is equivalent to the Lord Buddha's descent. This time, Qian Gang naturally has to come to the 9 underworlds to pay you a visit. Su Fong nodded. Remember your original vow and the last wish of your master, the Buddha of Fortune. Work hard in your cultivation. In the future, you and I will fight side by side and slay that evil god. Yes. Qian Gang kowtowed respectfully again, and then returned to the lotus pedestal. The lotus pedestal flashed and entered the interior of the Buddha's light. Then, the Buddha's light quickly disappeared into the nether river. Countless nether souls and nether monsters also retreated like the ebbing tide. Everyone seemed to have woken up from a dream. Their eyes were filled with disbelief as they fell on Su Fong. Who is that Fong Tianyan? How could he make the Ksitigarbha Buddha kneel down? Confusion. Shock. At this moment, Su Fong, who looked like he had gone through the vicissitudes of life, was even taller and more dazzling than the golden Buddha that Qian Gang had transformed into. Su Fong said to Mei Shiwero, "Let's go." Mei Shiwero seemed to be sleepwalking as she followed Su Fong toward the Yin-Yang heavenly wheel. One of the Duanmu Divine clan's elites suddenly shouted, "Wait! Mei Shiwero is the cultivation partner of our Duanmu Divine clan's genius. How can she go with you?" Su Fong said indifferently, "You heartlessly abandoned Mei Shiwero in the ultimate fantasy realm. Now you want her to go back. Is the Duanmu Divine clan so shameless? How dare you? How dare you?" The Duanmu Divine clan's elites roared. However, they did not dare to attack Su Fong as they were afraid of the scene of the golden Buddha kneeling down and thousands of souls kneeling down. Madame Mei said, "Shiwero is my daughter. It's not too much to ask her to go back to my side, right?" Mei Shiwero was her money tree. Now that she had left with Su Fong, she would not be able to get any benefits. Therefore, why would she care about Su Fong's true background? In Madame Mei's opinion, Su Fong must be from the Buddhist sect if he could make the golden Buddha kneel down. At this moment, the Buddhist sect was almost extinct in the universe. Naturally, Madame Mei would not be afraid of the Buddhist sect. Su Fong sneered disdainfully. "A snobbish woman like you who would sell your own daughter for benefits. How can you be a mother? I don't care what your background is. How dare you snatch my daughter and humiliate me so wantonly? How can I tolerate you?" Madame Mei flew into a rage out of humiliation. Her face flushed red as a 1,000-foot-tall plum tree appeared behind her. The tree trunk was thick and strong, and the patterns on it were like heavenly scars. The plum blossoms were as red as blood. A cold aura instantly enveloped Su Fong. Heavenly Path Dharma Idol. Suppress. Madame Mei pointed at Su Fong. The plum blossoms withered, and blood-red petals swept towards Su Fong like a blood-red river of stars. "You're courting death," Su Fong shouted domineeringly. In his original state, the power of his perfect physical body combined with Huang Lingyao's dark underworld qi exploded as he punched out. It felt like this punch contained the power of the universe, but it also contained the dark underworld qi. It was really strange and cold. QL11, the power of the punch, shattered the flying plum blossoms into pieces. It created a turbulent wave that swept toward Madame Mei. Boom! Madame Mei's defensive barrier was shattered. The Heavenly Path Dharma idol shook violently and almost collapsed. She staggered, then stared at Su Fong in astonishment. She found it hard to believe that a human could possess both such astonishing physical strength and such an astonishing amount of dark underworld qi. In addition, Su Fong clearly hadn't used his full strength, but he was able to neutralize Madame Mei's attack and even seemed to have the upper hand. How powerful was he? Just then, he had been bowed to by the golden Buddha and worshipped by all souls. Now he had displayed such incredible power. Everyone looked at Su Fong with reverence in their eyes, as though they were looking at an unparalleled god. Madame Mei shouted angrily. Lords of the Duanmu Divine Clan, Lord Dylan, joined forces to suppress this person. The experts of the Duanmu Divine Clan and the Plum Clan all began to stir. The old imperial people, however, seemed completely unmoved. Chapter 25-22. From Su Fang's eyes, Madame May saw boundless killing intent and illusions of mountains of corpses and seas of blood. A fear that came from the depths of her soul made her tremble. Su Fang's divine light swept across the experts of the Duanmu divine clan. He said coldly, "If you don't want anything to happen to Duanmu Renjia during his reincarnation, you'd better not act rashly." The Duanmu divine clan's overgods hesitated. Su Fang's powerful strength was unfathomable. He was at least at the peak of the overgod realm. It was not easy to fight with such an expert. Moreover, Su Fang had made the Golden Buddha, who might or might not be the Ksitigarbha Buddha, worship him. If they interfered with Duanmu Renjia's reincarnation in the ninth underworld, the consequences would be unimaginable. Dishu was disappointed when he saw that everyone was intimidated by Su Fang and did not dare to act rashly. He was prepared to use these experts to test Su Fang's strength. "Let's go." Su Fang took Mei Shiuro and flew slowly along the Nether River. Madame Mei, the experts of the Duanmu divine clan, and the others also followed in the direction of the Yin-Yang heavenly wheel. "Follow them." Dishu was unwilling to give up. He chased after them with the old imperial people. Just as Su Fang was rushing to the Yin-Yang heavenly wheel to let his grandfather's soul reincarnate, in the depths of the universe, a black ship that was shaped like a long and narrow leaf and about 100 feet long emerged from the void. A man and a woman stood on the ship. They were in their early 20s and looked very similar. They were twins. The young man was in a black robe. He had sword-like eyebrows and bright eyes. Although he was not very handsome, he had a unique manly charm. His deep eyes shone with a domineering luster under his sword-like eyebrows. His long black hair was casually draped over his shoulders, giving off an unruly and domineering feeling. The young woman looked similar to the young man, but she was much gentler. She wore a green robe and looked very plain. Their auras were very ethereal and extremely otherworldly, as if they did not belong to this universe. At the same time, the black ship released an ethereal divine power that isolated them from the universe. Even sovereigns would not be able to discover their existence. "This is the heaven and earth universe where my future Tao companion is training." The young man's empty eyes seemed to be able to see through the entire universe. He let out a disdainful sneer. It was only when he looked at the divine sun in the sky and the 7 blood sun evil sons that the young man showed a hint of fear in his eyes. The woman said, "Don't underestimate this universe. Although it is about to be occupied by the experts from the profound nether god realm, it is still full of geniuses. Let's not talk about the heavenly venerate of creation. I heard that an extremely extraordinary genius has appeared in the recent epoch. Even that person from Shixian is very concerned about him." "Genius?" The young man snorted. "Geniuses from such a universe can be found in the Jioshuan god domain." The woman frowned and said, "Little brother, we snuck out to take a look at your future Tao companion before leaving. If we cause any trouble, then it'll be difficult for us to escape Lord Father's punishment." Just as the young man was about to speak, he suddenly raised his brows and looked at the void in front of him. With a flash of divine light, a figure appeared in the void. It was Goddess Luo's adoptive father, Patriarch Luo. "Lord Luo." The young man and woman cupped their fists at Patriarch Luo. They seemed to have known each other for a long time. However, from their expressions, although they were polite to Patriarch Luo, they didn't have much respect. Patriarch Luo nodded and said, "Young Master Zheng and young Mistress Rome, why are you here?" The young man said, "We came out to relax and see Goddess Luo." "How is Goddess Luo doing in this universe recently? Since she knows that I am here, why doesn't she show herself?" Patriarch Luo hesitated. The young man's eyes flashed with a domineering light. "Why? Could it be that she has been in this universe for less than 300,000 years and has already started to have feelings for me? Or is it that Lord Luo wants to break the engagement?" Patriarch Luo smiled bitterly and said, "Young Master Zheng, you have misunderstood. It's not that Goddess Luo has a change of heart, and it's not that I want to break the engagement. It's just that Goddess Luo was pestered by a man when she was training in this universe. And there is some karma between us." The young man's eyes flashed with a sharp divine light. His face was distorted and looked ferocious. His expression was like a husband who suddenly found out that he had been cuckolded. The young man gritted his teeth and said, "Who is that person?" "That person is now in the 9 underworlds of this universe. It's not difficult for young Master Zheng to find him," Patriarch Luo said. With a wave of his hand, a lifelike figure of Su Fong appeared in front of him. "An ant-like existence dares to covet Dong Xianzheng's future Dao companion. Die." The young man stepped out of the black ship and disappeared into the void. The woman hurriedly came out of the black ship and sucked the black ship into her body through her palm. Then, she chased after the young man. When the two disappeared, Patriarch Luo stroked his white beard and smiled coldly. "Other than your identity, what qualifications do you have to be worthy of my adopted daughter? I can't touch you, but that person from Xixin doesn't dare to kill you. When you die, the previous engagement will naturally be broken." Patriarch Luo was planning to use the shadow of the strong cultivator from beyond the heavens in Su Fong's body to kill the young man, called Dong Xinzhang. The yin-yang heavenly wheel appeared in the sight of Su Fong and the others. Seeing the yin-yang heavenly wheel for the first time, everyone was shocked by the magnificent scene of thousands of souls pulling the wheel. At this time, the yin-yang heavenly wheel was already very different from when Su Fong first came. On the huge yin-yang heavenly wheel, there were countless souls bound by chains and pulled the wheel to rotate. From the yin-yang heavenly wheel, a divine power of the heavenly ways samsara of life and death was released. It formed a huge whirlpool that extended to the end of the sky of the 9 underworlds and disappeared into the void. The souls that used to be densely packed in the sky had disappeared. Instead, there were intact soul shadows that were attracted by the divine power of the yin-yang heavenly wheel. They flew out of the nether river and were sucked into the whirlpool. They disappeared into the end of the sky with the whirlpool and entered the samsara of life and death that could not be seen with the naked eye. Su Fong smiled. "I wonder how that underworld judge Go Li is doing now. It seems that he did a good job as the owner of the heavenly wheel. He restored the heavenly ways samsara of life and death a little." An elder of the Duanmu divine clan flew to the periphery of the yin-yang heavenly wheel's divine power. He took out a bottle that was carved out of black wood. He planned to use the souls he collected to test it first. After he felt that it was safe, he would let Duanmu Renjie's soul reincarnate. The elder pulled out the cork of the bottle. An unknown soul shadow floated out of the bottle. It was attracted by the divine power of the yin-yang heavenly wheel and was about to enter the whirlpool. Suddenly, a thunderous roar came from the yin-yang heavenly wheel. "How dare you? Who dares to barge into the yin-yang heavenly wheel and disturb the samsara of life and death?" Whoosh, a chain danced and wrapped around the soul, pulling it into the souls that were pulling the yin-yang heavenly wheel. Subsequently, a divine power erupted from the yin-yang heavenly wheel and enveloped the elder of the Duanmu divine clan. It actually wanted to suppress him. The elder of the Duanmu divine clan turned pale with fright. He retreated from the yin-yang heavenly wheel's divine power in a flash, and then he cupped his fists and shouted, "I'm from the Duanmu divine clan, and I'm here to reincarnate the geniuses of my clan. May I know who this lord is, and how should I address you?" A figure flew out from the yin-yang heavenly wheel. It was the underworld judge. No, it should be the owner of the yin-yang heavenly wheel, Go Li. The samsara of life and death is the reincarnation of the heavenly way. Who dares to destroy it? I don't care if you're from the Duanmu divine clan or the Duanmu divine clan. Leave the yin-yang heavenly wheel right now. Otherwise, don't blame me for being merciless. Go Li shouted domineeringly. He spoke in a righteous manner, and he was very awe-inspiring and just. When everyone saw Go Li's appearance and his pretentious appearance, it was really hilarious. But no one dared to laugh out loud. The elder of the Duanmu divine clan smiled obsequiously and said, "I'm impressed that Lord is able to enforce the law impartially. The Duanmu divine clan has no other request. We only hope that Lord will be magnanimous and let our geniuses reincarnate. After the matter is done, the Duanmu divine clan is willing to offer a peerless treasure that will satisfy Lord. Goli frowned and shouted angrily, "Shut up! I guard the yin-yang heavenly wheel and have always been upright and plain-spoken. How can I be bribed by you? If you dare to bribe me again, I'll suppress you as well." The experts of the Duanmu divine clan were all dumbfounded. They didn't expect to encounter such a stubborn monster when they finally arrived at the yin-yang heavenly wheel. When the experts of the Duanmu divine clan were at their wits' end, Dishu suddenly said, "I have a way to make the owner of the heavenly wheel listen to me," but the elder of the Duanmu divine clan was surprised and delighted. As long as Prince Dishu is willing to help Duanmu Renjia's soul reincarnate, the Duanmu divine clan is willing to refine a mountain melting pill for Prince Dishu. Mountain melting pill? It's a deal. Dishu's eyes shone brightly. The Duanmu divine clan had once refined a mountain melting pill for Di Yuan, but when the pill was completed, it was snatched away by Su Fong in a domineering manner. To the imperial people, the mountain melting pill was as valuable as a divine weapon of creation. How could Dishu not be happy to be able to get a mountain melting pill in exchange for it? Dishu then looked at Su Fong. "You definitely didn't come to the yin-yang heavenly wheel to watch the show. You have the same goal as the Duanmu divine clan. Am I right?" Su Fong said calmly. "So what?" Dishu said proudly. "I have the ability to make you return empty-handed. I will make things difficult for you. As long as you give Mei Shiwero to me, I'll help you achieve your goal. How about it?" Mei Shiwero immediately became nervous. Su Fong said coldly, "In your eyes, Miss Mei is a treasure and a resource. In my eyes, she's a living person. I won't exchange her for anything. Besides, can you make the owner of the heavenly will listen to you?" Chapter 25-23. Dishu smiled proudly and took out a palm-sized token. The token was simple and unadorned, exuding an ancient aura and supreme majesty. On one side of the token, there was a lifelike picture of the celestial worthy mountain. Looking at it, one would feel the terror of facing the heavenly Tao. It suppressed one's Tao heart and willpower, and a sense of reverence and submission rose in one's heart. QL11 on the other side of the token, there were 4 words engraved: "Upholding the heavenly Tao." The leading elder from the Duanmu divine clan exclaimed, "The upholding token." The other experts from the Duanmu divine clan, as well as the experts from the Plum clan led by Madame Mei, also looked at the token with awe. The upholding token? It should be a divine artifact similar to the heavenly supervisory token. However, the heavenly supervisory token is a divine artifact that rules the heavenly Tao, while the upholding token is a supreme Dharma treasure that controls the power of the heavenly Tao. I didn't expect Dishu to have such a Dharma treasure. Even the imperial people's geniuses, Di Xuan and Di Yuan, didn't have such a powerful Dharma treasure. Su Fong sensed that the command token contained a might that was capable of mobilizing the supreme energy of the Heaven Tao. So he made a guess. Dishu shouted at Goli domineeringly, "I have the upholding token and can control the heavenly Tao. As the Lord of the heavenly wheel, kneel down and kowtow to me." An aura that seemed to say that the heavenly Tao was in his control erupted from the upholding token in Dishu's hand and enveloped Goli. It was as if the heavenly Tao had appeared and wanted to force Goli to submit or be suppressed. Goli trembled all over. He couldn't resist the terrifying heavenly Tao oppression and had to kneel down. At this moment, Dishu was like the incarnation of the heavenly Tao. He was domineering and in high spirits. At the same time, his handsome face was filled with pride and arrogance. However, Goli suddenly roared angrily. "The 9 underworlds have been shattered, and the heavenly Tao's reincarnation cycle has been severed. You are just a puny cultivator. You want me to submit to you with a lousy token? Don't even think about it." As soon as he finished speaking, the yin-yang heavenly will spun on both sides and released a terrifying power of yin-yang reincarnation cycle. It actually broke the upholding token shackles and sent Dishu, The Lord of the Heavenly Wheel. The Lord of the Heavenly Wheel, are you trying to defy the Heavenly Tao? Go Heavenly Taos, the Heavenly Taos, Heavenly Tao of Heavenly Taos, reincarnation cycle. Heavenly Tao is the Heavenly King cycle. Of the Heavenly Wheel, Heavenly. It is the Lord of it. Identified worthy. Diddy off it, worthy of the heavenly divine of the God. Go worthy of the heavenly Heaves Lord. Dididius. When the laughter reached Su's ears, it was so ear-piercing that his face instantly turned ashen. The experts of the Duanmu divine clan secretly communicated with each other. They looked at Go Li with murderous intent in their eyes. Go Li sneered, "Don't look down on this Lord's strength. In this yin-yang heavenly wheel, this Lord is the supreme heavenly Tao. Unless you are an emperor, this Lord can easily send you into the cycle of reincarnation. If you don't want to die, you could try." The experts of the Duanmu divine clan became hesitant. Mei Shiwero suddenly said, "Su Tianyun, didn't you say that you know the Lord of the Heavenly Wheel?" Su Fong chuckled and said, "Lord Go Li, it's just letting a soul reincarnate. It's just a small matter. You can make an exception this time." Go Li looked at Su Fong. Like the heavenly heavens, he said majestically, "This is a matter of life and death. How can you mess around? How do you know my name? It is useless even if you know me. Even if my birth parents come, there is absolutely no room for tolerance." Seeing that Su Fong was also defeated, Su felt a little better in his heart, and he began to mock and ridicule Su Fong. Su Fong pointed at Go Li. He changed to the big Goblin Yuan Li's voice and shouted majestically, "Bastard, get over here. I haven't seen you for a short time, and you don't even recognize me. How majestic! How dare you humiliate me? Wait, your voice. You are Lord." Go Li's body trembled. His eyes shone with a strange light. In an instant, Go Li seemed to change into another person. From the majestic Lord of the yin-yang heavenly wheel, he suddenly became a dog wagging its tail and flew towards Su Fong. "Lord, it's really you. I didn't expect you to be able to return to the yin-yang heavenly wheel. I missed you so much." Then he knelt down in the air to Su Fong. Then he hugged Su Fong's legs with snot and tears. While everyone was dumbfounded, their eyes were filled with shock, and their faces were filled with disbelief. Mei Shiwero stared at Su Fong. A strange color flashed in her beautiful eyes. "I thought he was talking big. I didn't expect that not only did he not talk big, but he also talked small. It seems that there is hope for me to get rid of the fate of being controlled by others." Thunder seemed to roar in Shu's head. "Impossible. Who is this Su Tianyan? He can make the golden Buddha in the mirage kingdom of Buddha light worship him. Now he can make the Lord of the yin-yang heavenly will act like a dog in front of him. Even the strongest of my clan can only force them to submit at most, but they can never make them behave like this. Is this person a supreme expert who has transcended the world? Not only Shu, but the old man of the imperial people, the experts of the Mei and Duanmu clans, and the recruited experts all had the same idea." Su Fong said domineeringly, "I came to the yin-yang heavenly wheel this time for the reincarnation of my loved ones. Go and prepare. If there is any mistake, I will peel off your dog skin." Yes. This is a small matter. Go Li will definitely handle it well for you." Go Li nodded repeatedly. An expert of the Duanmu divine clan flew over and cupped his fist respectfully. "Lord Su Tianyun, can you please make an exception for the Lord of the yin-yang heavenly wheel and help young Master Duanmu Renjia to be reincarnated?" "Help Duanmu Renjia," Su Fong sneered in his heart. Duanmu Renjia went against Su Fong again and again when he was alive. However, in Su Fong's eyes, he was just a clown. He didn't really care about him. Logically speaking, it was already good enough that Su Fong didn't kill Duanmu Renjia. Why would he help him to be reincarnated? However, Su Fong had other plans. His grandfather's reincarnation was a big matter. There couldn't be any mistakes. It was naturally the best to test it on Duanmu Renjia first. This was also one of the reasons why Su Fong could come to the Yin-Yang heavenly wheel directly and let his grandfather be reincarnated, but he still followed the experts of the Duanmu divine clan. It's not impossible for me to make an exception for the Lord of the Yin-Yang heavenly wheel, but if he didn't make the Duanmu divine clan pay a price, it wouldn't be in line with Su Fong's character. That would be letting down the name Su Huang. When the experts of the Duanmu divine clan saw that there was hope, they were instantly overjoyed. In the end, they paid the high price of 10 million creation sacred elixir pills to satisfy Su Fong. He then asked Go Li to reincarnate Duanmu Renjia first. Go Li activated the Yin-Yang heavenly wheel. As it rotated, the power of the Yin-Yang heavenly wheel was activated. It formed a whirlpool that led to the Tao of reincarnation in the void. The expert of the Duanmu divine clan took out a 1-foot square black wooden box. This wooden box was made from a soul-nourishing wood that was born at the beginning of the world. It had the miraculous effect of nourishing the soul. The expert of the Duanmu divine clan undid the seal on the wooden box. Duanmu Renjia's shadow floated out from the wooden box. However, Duanmu Renjia's soul was obviously a little weak. It didn't seem to have much intelligence or consciousness because it wasn't the main soul. It was cultivated using a forbidden technique. The expert of the Duanmu divine clan glanced at Mei Shiwero and revealed a look of pity. If he had Mei Shiwero's plum spirit chi, Duanmu Renjia's soul wouldn't have reincarnated like this. However, Mei Shiwero had Su Fong's support now. How would the Duanmu divine clan dare to have any ideas about her? Under the guidance of the Yin-Yang heavenly wheel, Duanmu Renjia's soul slowly flew towards the reincarnation whirlpool. It quickly disappeared at the end of the sky of the 9 underworlds and entered the Tao of reincarnation. Su Fong executed his great perfection stage ability in the Heaven's Secret Life shortening technique. He sensed the entire process clearly until Duanmu Renjia's soul entered the Tao of reincarnation. Even the Heaven's Secret Life shortening technique couldn't sense it anymore. Only then did he stop. Su Fong took out the Dark Valley Vital Pearl and sent his divine consciousness into the Dark Valley Vital Pearl. Seeing the image of the white-haired elder, Su Fong felt a sense of reluctance. Grandfather's soul had been nourished for so many years. Especially the soul marrow dark milk. It had become extremely condensed. Even though it was just a mortal soul, it looked much stronger than Duanmu Renjia's soul. Grandfather's soul transmitted a message. Fong, are you going to reincarnate? I'm going to be a human again. This is a good thing. Why are you so reluctant? In a few years, we will be reunited. By then, I will be even younger than you. Ha ha! Su Fong wiped away the reluctance in his heart and moved grandfather's soul out of the Dark Valley Vital Pearl. He then took out a ball of Buddha light from his palm. Within the Buddha light, there was a drop of crystal clear dew. It was the crimson spirit dew that Su Fong had obtained in the Mirage Kingdom of Buddha light. There were a total of 3 drops of crimson spirit dew. Su Fong had given one to Huang Lingyao. He had always sealed the remaining 2 drops in his inner world. Su Fong activated his divine prowess and sent the crimson spirit dew into grandfather's soul. The Buddha light immediately enveloped grandfather's soul. When grandfather's soul entered the Buddha light, it was like a sponge absorbing water. It absorbed that drop of crimson spirit dew cleanly. Grandfather's soul had obviously become more condensed and was faintly emitting a divine Buddha nature. What is that thing? It can actually make the soul more stable and stronger? Crimson Spirit Dew. That is the legendary Crimson Spirit Dew that was born in the Mirage Kingdom of Buddha Light. Legend has it that in the Ksitigarbha Buddha's dojo, there was a spiritual item called the Crimson Spirit Grass. It was influenced by Buddhism and condensed into Crimson Spirit Dew. It has a huge effect on any soul. Who exactly is this Su Tianyan? He actually has a treasure like the Crimson Spirit Dew. After understanding the origin and use of the Crimson Spirit Dew, everyone exclaimed again, especially the Duanmu Divine Clan's formidable martial artists. Their eyes were red as they looked at the Crimson Spirit Dew. Chapter 25-24. Under the jealous gaze of the Duanmu Divine Clan experts, Su Fong took out a drop of crimson spirit dew and let his grandfather's soul merge with it. But that was not the end. Then, Su Fong activated the purple Qi Dharma spirit, and a mysterious and illusory purple Qi gushed out and seeped into his grandfather's soul, merging with it. Purple Qi Dharma spirit. It turned out that Su Fong planned to use the purple Qi Dharma spirit to enhance his grandfather's soul with supreme luck. In this way, not only could his grandfather's soul be reincarnated smoothly, but he could also use the reincarnation to merge his fate with the supreme luck. After reincarnation, he would always be accompanied by luck. Sensing the invisible power of luck, the imperial people Elder and Dishu could finally determine Su Fong's true identity. While they were shocked, their hearts were also filled with fear. They were afraid that Su Fong would take revenge on them for their previous provocation. In fact, Su Fong focused all his energy on his grandfather. Even if the world fell apart, he would not care about it. Why would he care about Dishu? Grandfather, take care. Su Fong knelt down and kowtowed to his grandfather's soul, his heart full of reluctance. After reincarnation, his grandfather's life would come to an end. Although the Crimson Spirit, Duke could allow his grandfather to gradually recover his memories and thoughts after reincarnation, he would no longer be the grandfather he used to be. His grandfather's soul nodded to Su Fong. Under the Buddha's light, it was attracted by the power of the yin-yang heavenly wheel. It entered the whirlpool of life and death and gradually disappeared. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The Tao of Destiny from the life, shrinking technique, and the true script from the heavenly mystery decipher flashed rapidly at the same time, warning Su Fong of great danger. Su Fong's expression suddenly changed. Oh no, grandfather's soul. Just as he was about to flash out, a hand suddenly reached out from the whirlpool of life and death and grabbed at Su Fong's grandfather's soul, who was about to enter reincarnation. Su Fong's grandfather's soul was out of control. Even the power of the heavenly way of life and death could not stop that hand from grabbing his soul. Then, a man and a woman walked out of the void. The one who grabbed his grandfather's soul was the unruly and domineering young man. These two people transcended the world. The power of the heavenly wheel of yin-yang and the power of the heavenly Tao of life and death could not shackle them. This sudden turn of events caused everyone to be shocked and stunned. You're courting death. When Su Fong saw that his grandfather's soul had fallen into the young man's hands, he immediately went crazy. He didn't think too much about it, nor did he try to hide anything. The power of the world of yin and yang surged out of his body, and he instantly teleported into the reincarnation vortex, ready to attack the young man. How dare you? Which madman dares to obstruct the cycle of reincarnation and shackle the souls of Lord Yuan, Li's relatives? Goli was also shocked and angry, preparing to use the yin-yang heavenly wheel to deal with the man and woman. There was a mocking look in the young man's eyes. A divine might gushed out from his right hand, and the Buddhist light that enveloped Su Fong's grandfather's soul instantly shattered. Stop! Su Fong immediately stopped and let out an angry roar. Goli also quickly stopped using the yin-yang heavenly wheel. The young man's hand stopped, and he looked at Su Fong with contempt and said, "You're Su Fong?" The woman's eyes flickered, and there was a kind of astonishing divine might that came from the evolution of fate. She carefully looked at Su Fong, and soon a look of shock and surprise appeared on her face, and then a strange light flashed in her eyes. Su Fong forced himself to calm down. The slightest carelessness would cause his grandfather's soul to shatter, so he had to calm down. Yes, I'm Su Fong. Who are you? Why do you shackle the souls of my relatives? Su Fong, this Su Tianyan is Su Fong. The Duanmu divine clan, the Plum clan, and the recruited experts were in an uproar. Mei Shuero was also shocked. The man she admired the most had been by her side for such a long time, and he had seen her body. Thinking of this, Mei Shuero seemed to be drunk. Her face flushed, and her eyes flickered with vigor. QL 11-inch, that's right. The young man nodded. Then, he looked at Su Fong disdainfully and said coldly, I'm Don Xinzhong. Don Xin is my surname. A lowly existence like you has no idea what this surname means. I don't care what your surname is, and I don't care where you come from. These have nothing to do with me. I only want to know why you're shackling the souls of my relatives and preventing them from reincarnating. A frog at the bottom of a well is a frog at the bottom of a well. You think the sky is so big and you're the strongest in this world. If I don't show you, you won't know what reverence is. Dong Xianzheng snorted, and his hands quickly formed a seal. He then pointed at Madame May from afar, and an invisible force that surpassed the scope of the universe condensed into sword energy that shot toward Madame May. Madame May felt the arrival of a fatal danger, and she was so frightened that she turned pale. With a flash, she melted into heaven and disappeared. Poof! A muffled thud came from nothingness, and then Madame May fell out. A hole as thick as a finger had appeared between her brows. Her god's orifice had been destroyed, and her primordial spirit had been obliterated at that moment. Madame May, who was at peak upper-rank lord level, had not been able to block Dong Xianzheng's casual attack. Any defense was useless before Dong Xianzheng's attack. It turned out that Dong Xianzheng had killed Madame May because he had seen that her ability was the most powerful among them. He wanted to show off his powerful ability. Mother! Mei Shuero flew over and hugged Madame May's corpse, sobbing uncontrollably. Although Madame May had treated her like a cash cow, she was still her biological mother. Dong Xianzheng had killed Madame May with a snap of his fingers. Everyone, including the imperial people's powerhouses, trembled as they looked at Dong Xianzheng in horror. Su Fang's eyes were solemn as well. In reality, Dong Xianzheng's cultivation base was not very high. He was only one step higher than Goddess Luo, and roughly at the same level as a lower-rank lord. However, the power and laws that this person had unleashed were above any power in the universe. It was like the difference in power between a great world and a mini-world. It was extraordinary and powerful, which was why he had killed Madame May so easily. Beyond the heavens, this young man, named Dong Xianzheng, was a powerhouse from beyond the heavens. At the same time, Su Fang also noticed that when Dong Xianzheng had unleashed his divine ability, the power of the heavenly Tao had clearly rejected him. This discovery made Su Fang feel much more relieved. Dong Xianzheng smiled faintly, as if he had just crushed an ant to death. Then, Dong Xianzheng looked at Su Fang coldly and said, I can tell you now that it's because a lowly ant like you has angered me and humiliated me. It's not just the souls of your loved ones. I'll kill all the people whose fates are connected to yours before you one by one. I'll let you die with endless pain and despair. Her extremely venomous voice sent chills down everyone's spines. Even Dong Xianzheng's twin sister furrowed her brows. Su Fang asked in a deep voice, why? Why? Dong Xianzheng gritted his teeth as his gaze turned even more venomous. Goddess Luo is my future partner. You should understand now, right? Goddess Luo. Goddess Luo's figure appeared in Su Fang's mind, as well as the shadow of the moldy biscuit. Su Fang understood immediately. Although he could no longer remember what had happened between him and Goddess Luo, their fates must have been tightly intertwined in the past. Judging from Dong Xianzheng's actions and expressions, it was highly likely. Seeing how Dong Xianzheng looked like he had been cuckolded, Su Fang was almost certain that he had had a special experience with Goddess Luo in the past that exceeded ordinary relationships between men and women. Goddess Luo came from beyond the heavens. I didn't expect her to be this person's future partner. That young man from beyond the heavens is too aggrieved. He actually had his partner snatched away by Su Fang. Ruthless. Su Fang is too ruthless. He even snatched the partner of an expert from beyond the heavens and gave him a green hat. No wonder he came from beyond the heavens to seek revenge. After the war between the two worlds, Patriarch Luo was a transcendent expert from beyond the heavens. This was no longer a secret. Since Goddess Luo was Patriarch Luo's adopted daughter, she naturally came from beyond the heavens as well. Since Patriarch Luo had erased the fates and memories of Goddess Luo and Su Fang, everyone's memories of their past had disappeared as well. Now that an expert from beyond the heavens had come to seek revenge on Su Fang, Everyone was shocked. They couldn't help but admire Su Fong from the bottom of their hearts. However, they only dared to think these thoughts in their hearts. They definitely didn't dare to voice them out. Dong Xinzheng was so powerful that he had killed Madame Mei in one move. Who would dare to provoke him at this time? Dishi was extremely pleased. Su Fong, you've been so arrogant and overbearing in this universe. You don't even care about the imperial people. Now you've finally gotten yourself into trouble. Let's see how you'll escape the pursuit of an expert from beyond the heavens this time. However, he had second thoughts. Now that everyone knew about Dong Xianzheng's scandal of being cuckolded, they would definitely kill him to silence him later. Even Madame Mei couldn't withstand a single blow. Who would be able to escape this calamity? Thinking of this, Dishu began to worry about his own life again. He had no choice but to place all his hopes on Su Fong. Dong Xianzheng noticed everyone's expressions. Although they deliberately concealed their thoughts, he could still see some clues from their expressions. This made Dong Xianzheng furious. All of you must die. Su Fong, I'll let you have a taste of the pain of losing your family. Dong Xianzheng clenched his right hand and a divine aura immediately swallowed Su Fong's grandfather's soul, crushing it into pieces. Grandfather! Su Fong felt as if his heart had been stabbed by a knife. Instantly, he felt a sharp pain, and his entire body was drowned in pain and coldness. Dong Xinzheng, you deserve to die. Su Fong was like a ferocious beast that had gone berserk. He formed a seal with both hands and charged towards Dong Xinzheng. Heaven's secret life, shrinking technique. Heaven's divination, solution. Great Dao time Abhijna. Su Fong fused 3 great Abhijnas and created his own Abhijna, Heaven's will Abhijna technique. Chapter 25:25. Bam! Black and white yin and yang vortexes flickered in Su Fong's pupils. Then, black and white Xian Guang shot out from his pupils and enveloped Dong Xianzheng, turning into a black and white yin and yang vortex that spun counterclockwise around him. The vortex reflected the scenes of time reversing everything that had happened to Dong Xinzheng, mediating destiny's spell. He was so powerful that he could reverse the flow of time and make the things that had already happened reappear. Not only was it replayed, but it was also reversed. Come! Su Fong grabbed at the yin and yang vortex, and his grandfather's soul flew out of Dong Xinzheng's hand. Who knew that at this moment? Su Fong's eyes were filled with disbelief. The Tao runes of the Tianji life contraction spell flickered rapidly in his divine aperture. What caused the Tao runes to move was another unseen force of destiny. Then, it was as if an invisible hand pressed down on Su Fong's divine body and his surroundings. Su Fong opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. His grandfather's soul, which he had just obtained, flew out and was caught by Dong Xianzheng's sister. Tianji life contraction spell. Dong Xianzheng's sister had performed the Tianji life contraction spell, a domineering power that robbed others of their fates. Not only was it similar, it was exactly the same. It was even more domineering and powerful than when Su Fong performed it himself. A woman from beyond the heavens was actually able to use the heavens' secret life shrinking art. This was truly unbelievable. Too unbelievable. Stop. How do you know how to perform the Tianji life contraction spell and the unraveling mystery solution? Dong Xianzheng's sister looked at Su Fong in shock and shouted to stop Su Fong from continuing. Hand over my family's soul, or you won't be able to escape death today. Su Fong was like a ferocious beast that had been completely enraged. His eyes were burning with fury. Performing the mediating destiny spell had already cost him a lot of his life. Then, Dong Xinzheng's sister performed the Tianji life contraction spell and forcefully robbed what belonged to his fate, making things worse for him. At this time, he had regained his original appearance, but his aura had become dispirited and listless. His silver hair fluttered in the wind, and he looked like he had aged more than 20 years. However, his entire body was burning with anger. He burned and melted the reincarnation vortex formed by the power of the yin-yang heavenly wheel layer by layer. It felt like he was a god of death. Little ant, how dare you be so arrogant? Dong Xinzheng had broken free from the power of destiny mediating spell. Although he was not injured, he was quite frightened. If Su Fong hadn't gone to snatch the soul just now, but had directly attacked him, he would have been in a state of time reversal and had no power to fight back at all. Even if he didn't die, he would have been seriously injured. Enraged, Dong Xinzheng took a step forward and threw a punch at Su Fong. QL11. The might of this punch actually caused space to shatter and the laws to collapse ceaselessly. It gave rise to an imposing storm that could shatter the heavens and the earth. Its might was so terrifying that it could be described as a punch that could shatter the heavens. What a powerful divine body. I have to go all out now. Su Fong's heart skipped a beat. He hadn't thought that even the divine body of an outsider would be so powerful. He didn't dare to be careless. He activated the power of his perfection stage physical body and used the divine fist of destruction to clash with Dong Xinzheng. Pa! Pa! The number one genius of the myriad heavens and myriad worlds finally clashed with the powerhouse from the outer realms. The fist technique, thousand-layer waves collided in the air, causing the reincarnation vortex formed by the power of the yin-yang heavenly wheel to collapse. The force of the collision almost swallowed the yin-yang heavenly wheel. The sovereigns from the imperial people, Duanmu divine clan, and Plum clan were all affected by the force of the collision. They were dizzy and felt like their organs were about to be shattered. Those below the level of Overgod were bleeding from their orifices and staggered. As for Goli, he hid in the space inside the yin-yang heavenly wheel and didn't dare show his face again. A battle of this level wasn't something he could get involved in. The battle between the two young experts caused chaos in the ninth underworld. Su Fong is actually so powerful that he can even fight against a powerhouse from outside the sky. He's barely qualified to fight. The outsider obviously hasn't shown his true strength. The outsider has been cuckolded by Su Fong. How can he kill Su Fong so easily? He'll definitely play with him like a cat playing with a mouse before finally killing him. The crowd discussed in secret. No one was optimistic about Su Fong. In their opinion, those who could cross the chaos and come to this universe from the outside must be transcendents like Patriarch Luo. No matter how powerful Su Fong was, how could he be a match for a transcendent? However, they didn't dare to run away. The battle between Su Fong and Dong Xinzheng had caused the space of the ninth underworld to tremble. Even the Overgod might die while traveling through the void. How far could they fly in such a short time? If they angered the outsider by running away, especially the woman who had yet to fight, they would lose their lives. It was better for them to stay and watch. Dong Xinzheng's sister stared at Su Fong. Her eyes were filled with surprise. Su Fong had grasped the life contraction technique, the unraveling of heaven's expansion, and possessed such a powerful divine body. He had clearly exceeded her expectations and shocked her. An ant-like existence actually possesses such a powerful divine body. You're quite extraordinary to be able to fight me. It's a pity that you've offended me. I'll personally destroy everything you have. Jiushuan Starry Sea, suppress. Dong Xinzheng bellowed furiously. Whoosh! The roar of the ocean rang out loudly. Starlight flickered on Dong Xinzheng's divine body and rapidly expanded around him, turning into an ocean of surging starlight. Dong Xinzheng stood at the peak of the towering wave and charged toward Su Fong in a crushing manner. He was like a whale swallowing fish and shrimp. Dong Xinzheng was naturally the whale, while Su Fong was the fish and shrimp that was about to be swallowed. Such a powerful attack, and it was a power that surpassed the heavens and the earth. Even a supreme sovereign would have to avoid it. Natal form, gigantified body of the diamond. Herculean palm. Su Fong did not use his most powerful trump card, since it was not time for him to put his life on the line. Instead, he activated the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda in an instant and entered his natal form. Then, he looked up into the sky. Chaoren? Chao, Rini, Chaoren Zheng, Alpha Ku Qingchun Ing Xian Egio, Ci, Liu Guai, Dan Ding, Xiao Li. In such a state, Su Fong's strength surpassed Overgod's and even peak Overgod's. He had reached the level of a sovereign. He could even crush ordinary sovereigns. Boom, boom, boom. Su Fang's divine body grew crazily in reverse. Explosive sound like spring thunder came from his body. Golden electricity flowed on the surface of his divine body, and mysterious heavenly marks appeared on his skin. Clang, 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 clang. Su Fang turned into a giant hundreds of feet tall. His arms shook, and he struck out golden palm prints, shattering Dong Xianzhang's aura. The towering wave continued to shatter. Boom! It felt like two universes had collided. The whirlpool formed by the power of the heavenly wheel of yin-yang collapsed in an instant. Cracks appeared on the heavenly wheel of yin-yang as well. More than half of the souls that were pulling the heavenly wheel of yin-yang were immediately reduced to ashes. Bang! Su Fang and Dong Xianzhang separated. The sea of stars around Dong Xianzhang had already collapsed. His aura was no longer there, but he looked unscathed. Su Fang quickly recovered from his gigantified state. With his current cultivation, there was a limit to using the gigantified body of the diamond at full strength. It consumed a lot of yang energy. You're very strong. I didn't expect a young expert like you to appear in this universe that's about to be destroyed. Dong Xianzheng no longer looked at Su Fang with the arrogance and contempt from before. Then, he looked at Su Fang with a murderous gaze. Lowly existence, you have a right to make me use half of my strength. Is that so? Shouldn't I feel extremely honored? Su Fang snorted coldly. He waved his hand, and a black xianguang appeared. It quickly turned into a broken black book. The book opened automatically. A black shadow floated out and turned into the Temple Emperor. Suppress that woman and take back my family's soul. Su Fang issued a command filled with murderous intent to the Temple Emperor. Su Fang did not care about anything else. If there were no more treasures, he could take them again. If there were no more resources, he could find and plunder them. However, if his family was hurt, Su Fang would not tolerate it. The Temple Emperor was shackled by Su Fang with the Prison Suppression Codex. Later, he was severely injured in the battle with Emperor Qi. After swallowing the Crimson Pearl, he had mostly recovered and could be put to good use. Yes, Master. The Temple Emperor was suppressed by the Prison Suppression Codex. Unless Su Fang died, he could not help but obey Su Fang's will. Following Su Fang's command, he immediately attacked Dong Xianzhang's sister. You have a venerable emperor expert by your side. You're definitely not an ordinary person. Su Fang, wait, I have something to say. Dong Xianzhang's sister's expression changed slightly. She quickly stopped Su Fang. Let go of my family. Then you have the right to speak to me. Su Fang shouted domineeringly. At this moment, Dong Xianzhang attacked Su Fang again. He shouted at his sister. Sister, with this lowly existence? Lead the way. Be a coward? Let go. Before he could finish his words, a vast sea of stars appeared behind Dong Xianzhang. It immediately swept over and turned into a world about to suppress Su Fang. Although it was also a world, Dong Xianzhang's world was completely different from the worlds created by the experts of the universe. In this universe, even the venerable emperors, including the supreme existence of the imperial people, Di Hao, had worlds that were infinitely close to the universe. However, no matter what, they were still attached to this universe and were still within the boundaries of nature. If they could not transcend, they would forever be shackled and bound by the universe. However, Dong Xianzhang's world was created with his own power. Not only was it beyond the universe, the power it contained was also much purer and more advanced than the venerable emperor's power. For example, the world created by the venerable emperors was like the power of a mortal in a small world, while Dong Xianzhang's power surpassed that of a small world and reached the level of a great world. This is my first time fighting with an expert from beyond the universe. I want to see if your power from beyond the universe or my world of yin and yang is more powerful. Why do you have to be so high and mighty, to be so arrogant in front of me? Chapter 25-26. The power of the world of yin and yang surged out of Su Fang's body, turning into the universe in an instant. Su Fong was the supreme ruler of the universe. Although Su Fong's world had yet to become a mature universe, it was at a higher level than a sovereign's world. In addition, when Su Fong ascended to Overgod, he severed his karma with the universe and transcended it. Then, he reconstructed his divine body in Tao Palace. In essence, the universe in Su Fong's body was not much different from a sovereign's. The only difference was that his universe had yet to mature, so he could not transcend it with his physical body. Once he left this universe, the universe in his body would collapse because it could not withstand the shackles of the chaotic void beyond. Dong Xinzheng had power that surpassed this universe, while Su Fong had a world in his body that transcended the universe. The two transcendental worlds collided constantly, showing terrifying scenes of the world collapsing and the universe collapsing. The power of such a shocking collision was not something that overgods could achieve. Even ordinary sovereigns would not have such shocking strength. They were almost at the peak of sovereigns. The shockwaves from the collision of worlds caused the entire ninth underworld to tremble violently. The sky darkened and the earth turned upside down. The nether river boiled and roiled. Countless nether souls and nether monsters were killed by the shockwaves. Even the yin-yang heavenly wheel trembled in the collision. Cracks appeared on it. Go Li, who hid within the yin-yang heavenly wheel, was scared out of his wits. The spectating cultivators had to stay far away from the yin-yang heavenly wheel. They used all their strength to defend against the shockwaves. Some of the weaker cultivators fainted or even died from the shockwaves. Mei Shiuro's maid, Lu Qi, was the unluckiest. She was hit by the shockwaves and immediately turned into blood. Mei Shiuro's cultivation was also not high. Fortunately, after the monarch race elder confirmed Su Fong's true identity, in order to curry favor with Su Fong and ease their relationship, he used his divine might to protect Mei Shiuro. Otherwise, her fate would have been the same as her servant girl, Lu Qi. Just as Su Fong and Dong Xinzheng were fighting, the Moon Emperor and Dong Xinzheng's sister were also fighting to the death. Su Fong originally thought that the other party was just a very ordinary woman. How high could her cultivation be? The Moon Arch could easily suppress it and take back his grandfather's soul. Who knew the woman fought with the Temple Emperor? Although she was constantly suppressed, she was still in an undefeatable position, let alone being able to suppress him. Furthermore, the divine ability that the woman had used was also extremely peculiar. Unlike Dong Xinzheng, she did not use extraterrestrial powers or supernatural powers. Instead, she used supernatural powers similar to the mystery of heaven's expansion. Her eyes shone with an ethereal and mysterious light, flickering with the changing images of the heavenly Tao. It was as if she could see through all the mysteries of the universe and control them all. The woman easily triggered the power of the heavenly Tao, forming a great power that made the Temple Emperor feel as if he was fighting against the entire world. Moreover, she could always see through the Temple Emperor's attacks and make accurate predictions in advance. Every time she counterattacked, she could accurately attack the Temple Emperor's weakest spot, making it difficult for him to use his strongest power. The scene was extremely eerie. I didn't expect that a woman from beyond the heavens would not only master the life-shrinking technique, but also the mystery of heaven's expansion. She has the ability to see through the heavenly mysteries and control the heavenly Tao. I must end this quickly and suppress this woman and take back my grandfather's soul. Su Fong was worried about the safety of his grandfather's soul. Seeing that the Temple Emperor could not suppress the woman in a short time, he could not help but feel anxious. Therefore, Su Fong did not hide anything anymore. He formed a circle with his hands, as if the entire universe was in his hands. Then he formed a seal with his 10 fingers and used the ultimate seal, the yin-yang change. At this time, Su Fong combined the power of the yin-yang world to display the power of the yin-yang change. Although it was not as powerful as when he used the Origin Sacred Mirror, it was still extremely shocking. All of a sudden, great changes took place in the universe around him. Yin and yang changed. The sun, moon, and stars fell. Wind, rain, thunder, and lightning flashed continuously. The thousands of great Tao laws in the universe quickly reversed, turning into the 6 most basic great Tao laws of metal, wood, water, fire, earth, and lightning. Finally, they turned into yin and yang. Boom! QL11, after some preparation, the entire universe erupted with the supreme power of the yin-yang world, colliding with Dongxian Zheng's astral world. The astral world collapsed layer by layer, returning to its origin and finally collapsing completely. Dongxian Zheng's body was sent flying. His divine body's defenses were shattered, and spiderweb-like cracks appeared on his skin, blood gushing out continuously. Su Fang's aura was only weakened. In addition to the life force he had used to use the heaven's revolving destiny technique, he was not injured at all. This confrontation was actually a complete victory for Su Fang. Dongxian Zheng's eyes were filled with shock and dissatisfaction, as if he had been greatly humiliated. Why? For someone as arrogant as Dongxian Zheng, his ability and identity were extraordinary. In his eyes, it was like an immortal looking down on mortals. Everything in this universe, even the strongest of the imperial people, was like an ant. He did not expect this. This time, he had actually been defeated in the hands of a low-level existence in this universe. What made him feel even more humiliated was that the person who had defeated him was the one who had made him a cuckold. Dongxian Zheng hollered indignantly, "Su Fang, if I wasn't repelled by nature in this universe, how could I allow you to be so arrogant before me?" Su Fang replied domineeringly, "It was you who came to this universe to be arrogant. No one invited you here. Hand over my family's soul obediently, and get out of this universe." Dongxian Zheng was enraged. Goddess Luo is my future Tao partner. How can I allow you to tame her? If I don't kill you this time, my surname isn't Dongxian. Goddess Luo, you're so arrogant and self-righteous when you're actually a mediocre person. What right do you have to be worthy of Goddess Luo? Su Fang's words were no different from sprinkling a handful of salt on Dongxian Zheng's bloody wound. Dongxian Zheng went berserk at once. With a flip of his right palm, a mystic treasure appeared in his palm. It was a mystic treasure that looked like an alms bowl. It was dark and covered in mysterious patterns that intertwined to form an image of an ocean. Before Dongxian Zheng could activate the alms bowl mystic treasure, there was already a blue Xian Guang circling around it. Frigid gales were howling and whistling. The alms bowl-like mystic treasure exuded an aura that surpassed that of a destinable artifact. It did not feel like a mystic treasure, but a manifestation of the universe itself. Dongxian Zheng's sister's eyes lit up when she saw him take out the arcane weapon. She exclaimed, "How can you take out the purifying ocean bowl? Stop it now. You can't control this supreme, arcane weapon." Dongxian Zheng gritted his teeth and said, "I was humiliated by a lowly existence. Which man can endure such humiliation? Even if I have to pay a price this time, I must suppress this ant." Then he shouted at Su Fang domineeringly, "The purifying ocean mystic bowl was refined by a supreme master of my clan. He killed a celestial venerable expert of a universe and extracted his water-type essence. This purifying ocean mystic bowl is a water-type universe. Su Fang, you're a frog in a well. To be able to die to this supreme mystic treasure is the fortune of your 9 lifetimes. A mystic treasure is a universe of its own. To think that there's such a powerful mystic treasure beyond the heavens that surpasses a destinable artifact born from heaven and earth. It's not weaker than my origin, sacred mirror. Looks like I'm in big trouble this time." Su Fang was extremely shocked. No matter how powerful a destinable artifact was, it was still born from heaven and earth. However, the purifying ocean mystic bowl was refined from the water-type essence of a universe of its own, which was equivalent to a water-type universe. Such a mystic treasure was beyond Su Fang's knowledge. However, Su Fang's personality had always been one to face difficulties head-on. He would never surrender without a fight. Even if he was in a hopeless situation, he would fight his way out of it. Moreover, Dongxian Zheng had a powerful mystic treasure. Did Su Fang not have one? I'd like to see if your purifying ocean mystic bowl or my mirror is more powerful. Su Fang used the mirror's power to communicate with Shu Wanjin. He took out the Origin's sacred mirror and prepared to use the Four Appearances transformation with Shu Wanjin to activate the mirror together to fight Dong Xianzheng to the death. He actually has such an extraordinary mystic treasure that's comparable to my purifying ocean mystic bowl. Dong Xianzheng looked at the Origin sacred mirror and sensed the terrifying power contained within it. His expression turned solemn. Then he turned the purifying ocean mystic bowl in his hand, the bowl's mouth facing Su Fang. The unique aura of the water grand Tao surged within the purifying ocean mystic bowl while strong winds whistled. Dark blue seawater surged and roared, and the sound of furious waves resounded from within the bowl. The purifying ocean mystic bowl's might hadn't erupted yet, but the bone-piercing cold aura formed from the pure energy of water that surpassed the heavens, and the earth had instantly enveloped Su Fang. Su Fang felt like his soul had been frozen while countless blades tore through his flesh and sliced at his bones. Su Fang utilized the energy of the Nine Suns, and the might of pure yang immediately swept through his body and dispelled the cold aura. Divine might surged out from his body, and the shackles in the surroundings melted away along with it. Right when Su Fang was about to activate the Origin's sacred mirror, a phantom suddenly floated out from within him and stood before him. It was the imprint that the mysterious old man had left behind in Su Fang's divine sense when he was on a mental journey. It had saved Su Fang once during the battle with the Tao Defiance, so Su Fang had never expected that it would actually take the initiative to appear here again. As soon as the phantom appeared, it was like everything in the world had fallen silent, and the might of the purifying ocean mystic bowl vanished in an instant. Dong Xianzheng was unable to activate the purifying ocean mystic bowl that he had been accumulating strength for a long time, and the Temple Emperor and Dong Xianzheng's older sister were unable to execute any abilities. Shi Xiandaozu. How could the Shi Xiandaozu leave behind a soul imprint on a low-level existence of this world? The killing intent on Dong Xianzheng's face vanished in an instant, and it was replaced by shock and reverence. Chapter 25-27. Shi Xiandaozu. Su Fang then understood that the elder's silhouette hidden in his body was called Shi Xiandaozu, a powerhouse from beyond the heavens who could be addressed as Daozu must be an incredible character. From the arrogant and domineering Dong Xianzheng's respectful expression, it was not hard to tell that Shi Xiandaozu was probably a prominent figure in a region. At least, he was someone Dong Xianzheng could not afford to offend. However, Su Fang did not quite understand why Shi Xiandaozu would hide a strand of his consciousness in his deific consciousness and follow it to this part of the universe. Su Fang didn't understand what was going on. Shi Xiandaozu's distant gaze fell on Dong Xianzheng. Juniors from Dongxian who don't even have the ability to traverse the chaos have appeared in this part of the universe. You all have snuck out behind old devil Dongxuan's back, haven't you? Dong Xianzheng quickly knelt down, trembling. Yes. This junior is Dong Xiandaozu's disciple, Dong Xianzheng. That is my elder sister, Dong Xianrong. We didn't know that Su Fang is under your protection. Please forgive us, Daozu. Before Shi Xiandaozu, although it was only a silhouette formed by a strand of his consciousness, not only did Dong Xianzheng lose his previous arrogance completely, even the humiliation of being cuckolded was thrown to the back of his mind. Shi Xiandaozu's silhouette stroked his half-foot-long white beard and chuckled. Do you think this ancestor has appeared to save Su Fang? Dong Xianzheng was stunned. Isn't that so? Shi Xiandaozu nodded and said, this ancestor saw that you are old devil Dongxuan's disciple and couldn't bear to see you die in Su Fang's hands. Otherwise, old devil Dongxian will find trouble with me. You think I'm stopping you to save Su Fang? What a joke. That child, he can kill me? Dong Xianzheng's face flushed red, as if he had been greatly humiliated. He refused to believe that Su Fang had the ability to kill him. His sister, Dong Xianrong, revealed a shocked expression, and the gaze she used to look at Su Fang instantly became more serious. For Shi Xiandaozu to say this, it was clear that Su Fang truly had the ability to kill Dong Xianzheng. Dong Xinzheng was also a renowned genius in the place they came from. He didn't expect that in this universe that was about to be destroyed, he would meet a genius who was countless times younger than him, but stronger than him. It was normal for Dong Rong to be so shocked. This ancestor can't be bothered with the struggles between you juniors. In this world, you are rejected by the heavenly Tao and your strength is suppressed. There are many experts who can kill you. Go back to where you came from. Shixin Daozu waved his hand. His figure blurred and then turned into a divine light that burrowed into Su Fang's body and disappeared. Dong Xinzheng glared at Su Fang with an extremely venomous gaze. He didn't expect that not only was Su Fang so powerful, he also had such a powerful backer behind him. Seeing that he couldn't avenge his cuckold, how could he not resent Su Fang? Sister Rong, let's go. Dong Xinzheng said to his sister and was about to leave the 9 underworlds. His grandfather's soul was still in that woman's hands. How could Su Fang let them leave like this? Su Fang roared, "Leave behind the soul of my family member. Otherwise, you will leave your life behind as well." Dong Xinzheng's eyebrows furrowed and his eyes were burning with anger. However, he had to swallow his anger in the end. He said to Dong Rong, "Sister, give that soul to him. The hatred between me and him will be settled by me personally one day." Dong Rong pondered for a moment and then smiled at Su Fang. "That soul should be the soul of your family member. You want him to reincarnate because you want him to obtain good fortune in his next life. This world is about to be destroyed. If you let him reincarnate here, he won't be able to escape death. When a nest is overturned, how can there be an egg that can escape unscathed?" Su Fang snorted coldly. "What do you want?" Dong Rong smiled and said, "Why don't I bring your family member's soul to the Jiushuan God realm to help him reincarnate? Although I can't guarantee that he will become a peerless master in the Jiushuan God realm, at least I can guarantee that he will have no worries in his next life." Dong Xinzheng didn't expect his sister to make such a decision. He couldn't help but be shocked and stunned. Su Fang refused immediately. "How can an outsider like you interfere with the reincarnation of my grandfather's soul? Quickly hand over my grandfather's soul, and I won't pursue the matter from before." Dong Xinzheng shouted domineeringly, "You humiliated me greatly. You won't pursue the matter, but I swear to kill you." Su Fang sneered in disdain. "Can you kill me? Don't be the one to be killed by me." Dong Xinzheng said, "You're just a frog at the bottom of a well. What do you know? If it weren't for the rejection of heaven in this world, I, Dong Xinzheng, would kill you like killing a chicken." Su Fang scoffed. "I, Su Fang, was born in this world. To you extraterrestrial masters, I'm indeed a frog at the bottom of a well. However, I'm at least trying my best to break free from all restraints and charge out of this well." He then pointed at Dong Xinzheng. "As for you, although you were born in the extraterrestrial God realm and the world is vast, your heart is like a well that shackles you in it. You're the real frog at the bottom of the well. You don't even know it and only know how to squawk incessantly. Su Fang, you've humiliated me time and time again. If I don't skin you alive, I, Dong Xinzheng, am not human." Dong Xinzheng was so angry that his eyes were spitting fire. He was about to kill Su Fang when he was stopped by Dong Rong. Dong Rong's seemingly ordinary face revealed a valiant and domineering aura that no woman had. "This is not up to you. Your grandfather's soul is now in my hands. I only need to use my will, and he will vanish into thin air." Su Fang was furious. "What kind of conspiracy do you have? You can come at me, Su Fang. Using my family as a hostage, such a despicable act. Aren't you afraid that it will hurt your Tao heart?" Dong Rong looked at Su Fang. "I'll bring your grandfather's soul to the Jiushuan God realm. I'll give you an year's time. If you can transcend this world and cross the chaotic void beyond the heavens to find the Jiushuan God realm, it won't be difficult for you to find us. I'll give you a chance to challenge Dong Xinzheng. If you win, your grandfather will be safe and sound. If you lose, humph. Remember, you have an year's time. Once you're gone, there will be no waiting." After saying that, Dong Rong waved her hand and a black Xian Guang rolled out. It turned into a black ship that was 100 feet long. She then jumped into the ship with Dong Xinzheng. Where do you think you're going? Su Fong immediately went into a frenzied state. He came before the black ship in a flash. The divine aura of the yin-yang world exploded and engulfed the black ship. However, the black ship was not shackled at all. It easily passed through Su Fong's divine aura and entered the void. Su Fong's eyes turned crimson red. He was like a ferocious beast that wanted to eat people. His body flashed and entered the void. He chased after the black ship. His divine body broke free from the shackles of the universe. He rushed out of the barrier between heaven and earth and appeared in the chaotic void beyond the heavens. The black ship released a protective, godly aura. The man and woman on the black ship looked at Su Fong, who was chasing after them. The two of them were incomparably shocked. Clearly, they were frightened by Su Fong's ability to transcend the heavens and earth. Dong Xianzhang's eyes flashed with ruthlessness. He arrogantly made a gesture of slitting his throat at Su Fong. Dong Xianrong controlled the black ship and swam deep into the chaotic void beyond the heavens. It seemed slow, but in fact it was unbelievably fast. In a flash, she was only a black dot in Su Fong's sight. Grandfather! Su Fong was burning with anxiety. He was about to chase after the black ship. However, under the shocking shackles of the chaotic void beyond the heavens, Su Fong felt like a mortal who had ascended to the immortal world. Not only was he unable to fly, but his divine body was collapsing under the pressure. His divine apertures and Tao Palace also showed signs of breaking. Dong Xianzheng, Dong Xianrong, I, Su Fong, swear that one day I will go to the Jiushuan realm of the gods and turn you and your sister into ashes. With Su Fong's current strength, it was difficult for him to stay in the heavens for long. Although he was filled with killing intent and hatred, he had to pass through the barrier between heaven and earth. When he reappeared, he was back in the yin-yang heavenly wheel. Frustration, hatred, helplessness. QL11, all kinds of frustration made Su Fong forget about the serious injuries on his body. He thought that he was standing at the top of the world. He did not expect that in front of the experts from the heavens, he was still so powerless. He could not even protect his family. Suddenly, the Golden Rainbow King's voice came from the world inside his body. Kid, you don't have to be depressed. What you need the most now is to stay calm. Su Fong replied angrily, That's my grandfather. He was captured by the experts from the heavens. I can't even guarantee that he will be safe, let alone reincarnate. How can I stay calm? The Golden Rainbow King said, You are confused because of your concern. Think about it carefully. Why did that woman capture your grandfather's soul? It's because she wants to use your grandfather's soul as bait to lure you to the Jiushuan realm of the gods they mentioned so that she can kill you. At least before you go to the Jiushuan realm of the gods, your grandfather's soul will be safe. Su Fong calmed down a lot. That's not bad. You don't have to worry about your grandfather. Think about it. You haven't reached the Transcendence realm yet, but you have some of the abilities of a Transcendence realm expert. With such talent, even if you go to the Jiushuan realm of the gods that the siblings mentioned, you will be an extraordinary genius, let alone in this world. Otherwise, why do you think Shi Xian Daozu would value you so much? You have the talent that surpasses other geniuses. You also have a tenacious Dao heart and will. How difficult is it for you to surpass Dong Xianzheng? Don't forget that you have Shi Xian Daozu as your backer now. How can the siblings not be afraid and kill your grandfather's soul without any hesitation? The Golden Rainbow King's words made Su Fong calm down completely. Golden Rainbow King, although you're not very reliable, what you said makes sense. From a small world until now, haven't I, Su Fong, stepped on one strong enemy after another and faced countless obstacles to reach my current height? Dong Xianzheng, Dong Xianrong, you dare to use my grandfather's soul to threaten me. You're courting death. It won't be long before I truly transcend this world and kill my way to the Jiushuan realm of the gods. Chapter 25-28. In the distant chaotic void beyond the heavens, the black ship was speeding through the chaos. Su Fong, Dong Xianzheng's anger had yet to dissipate, and his face was filled with killing intent. Dong Xinrong looked at her brother with a motherly gaze and sighed silently. Dong Xianzheng said, "Sister, you're still the smart one. You captured the soul of Su Fang's family and used it as bait to lure him to the Jiuquan divine realm. Once he leaves that universe, it will be easy for me to kill him. When he reaches the Jiuquan divine realm, I'll let him know what it means to live a life worse than death. I'm just afraid that he won't be able to transcend that universe due to his lack of strength and will be destroyed along with that universe." Looking at her brother gnashing his teeth, Dong Xinrong shook her head and smiled bitterly, but did not say anything. Dong Xinzheng continued, "We're already far away from that universe now. Sister, you can directly kill the soul of Su Fang's family." Dong Xinrong shook her head and said, "Let's keep it. Who knows, it might come in handy in the future." Dong Xinzheng nodded and said, "Sister, you're still as cautious as before. It's good to keep that soul. When the time comes, Su Fang won't come to the Jiuquan divine realm." Dong Xinrong sighed in her heart. Not only did Dong Xinzheng guess wrong, even Jinhong Wang and Su Fang guessed wrong. Dong Xinrong took Su Fang's grandfather's soul not to use it as bait to lure Su Fang to the Jiuquan divine realm. She had another motive. Her motive was very simple. It was the same as when Xian Daozu appeared earlier. It was to save Dong Xinzheng. Why was this so? How could Dong Xinrong, as his sister, not know what kind of character Dong Xinzheng was and what kind of strength he had? Dong Xinzheng's talent was extraordinary. In the divine realm where they were from, he was also an outstanding person. It was also because of this that he developed an arrogant and unruly character. His future Dao companion actually had an affair with another man. Moreover, this man was an ant from a low-level world. How could the arrogant Dong Xinzheng tolerate this? Dong Xinzheng would have a life and death battle with Su Fang sooner or later. Furthermore, Dong Xinrong was certain that the final victor of this life and death battle would definitely not be her younger brother. Dong Xinrong's cultivation technique and divine ability were extremely unique. It was a supreme cultivation technique that was related to fate and heaven's secrets, allowing her to have the ability to see through fate and heaven's secrets. Naturally, it wasn't difficult for her to see how extraordinary Su Fang was. He had far surpassed Dong Xinzheng. Also, to be valued by Xian's Daozu and even place a wisp of his consciousness in Su Fang's body. How could such a genius be a normal person? If it wasn't for her brother, Dong Xinrong wouldn't have made an enemy out of such a genius. Therefore, Dong Xinrong took away Su Fang's grandfather's soul, not as bait, but as a bargaining chip. In the end, it might save his brother's life. "Su Fang, I apologize for offending you this time. For my younger brother's sake, I had no other choice. Not only will I not purposely make things difficult for your grandfather's soul, I will even help him reincarnate into a wealthy family in the Jiuquan divine domain. At that time, I hope to resolve your resentment. If within an era you are unable to transcend the world that is about to be destroyed, or if my guess is wrong and you're defeated by my younger brother, then your grandfather has no need to continue existing." Thinking of this, Dong Xinrong's plain face revealed a domineering smile. "Yin Yang Heavenly Wheel." Once Su Fang appeared, he kept the moon god venerable into his inner world. Goli scrambled out of the Yin Yang Heavenly Wheel's inner world. "Master is mighty. You are invincible. Even the experts from beyond the heavens were chased away by you. This lowly one admires you so much." Su Fang frowned and shouted, "Hurry up and clean up the mess. Why are you still talking so much nonsense?" After this battle, the Yin Yang Heavenly Wheel was severely damaged. The countless souls that pulled it were almost all killed. Even the Yin Yang Heavenly Wheel was damaged. Originally, the cycle of life and death was interrupted. This time, the Yin Yang Heavenly Wheel was damaged. It would probably take at least 10 million years for it to be reborn. Greetings to the saint, Su Fang. The Imperial People's elders, Dishu, the Duanmu Divine Clan, the Plum Divine Clan, and the many cultivators that he had recruited all came forward to greet him. Apart from the overgod experts, the others all knelt on the ground. Su Fang looked down at everyone and then looked at Mei Shuero. Your plum spiritual energy is useful to me. I will use treasures, resources, or other conditions to exchange with you. Are you willing to do so? Meishiuro's eyes shone brightly. She hurriedly said, I am willing, but I don't want your treasures or resources. I want. Su Fong waved his hand and interrupted her. Tell me your conditions later. Yes. Meishiuro was so excited that she felt a little dizzy. Then, Su Fong looked at the experts from the Plum Divine Clan and the Duanmu Divine Clan and said, Since I have taken away Meishiuro's plum spiritual energy, I will not let her be bullied. Do you have any objections? Objections? Regardless of whether it was the Plum Divine Clan or the Duanmu Divine Clan, how would they dare to have any objections to Su Fong? The Chi people and the Yi clan's fates were obvious. The Luo Divine Clan and the Duanmu Divine Clan had no choice but to lower their heads to Su Fong. The Moon the Arch expert, the Moon the Arch, had become Su Fong's slave. How would they dare to have any objections? An expert from the Plum Divine Clan hurriedly cupped his fists and said, It is Meishiuro's great fortune to be chosen by the saint. It is also our clan's great honor. We can't be more grateful. How can we have any objections to Su Fong's saint? Su Fong raised his eyebrows. He was interested in Meishiuro's plum spiritual energy, not her. That expert from the Plum Divine Clan had obviously misunderstood. However, Su Fong had no intention of explaining. What was there to explain to these ants? The saint helped Duanmu Renjia reincarnate. Everyone in the Duanmu Divine Clan is extremely grateful for such great kindness. How can we have any objections to the saint? The saint is magnanimous to disregard our past enmity and help our clan. We are willing to serve the saint like dogs and horses. Not to mention that this woman has nothing to do with the Duanmu Divine Clan. Even if the saint wants to take our heads, we won't have any objections. The over-gods from the Duanmu Divine Clan also spoke one after another. They all looked extremely grateful. Su Fong then looked at Dishu. Prince Dishu, do you have any objections? Under Su Fong's cold gaze, Dishu could not help but tremble. When Su Fong and Dong Xinzheng were fighting, Dishu was still gloating, imagining that Su Fong would be killed by Dong Xinzheng. However, the result was that Dong Xinzheng and Dong Xinrong had almost escaped from this universe. The cultivators from all over the universe were like frogs at the bottom of a well. They had never known that they were trapped in a narrow well. They did not deserve to know that there was a wider world beyond the heavens. Ever since the battle of the two worlds, the transcendent Luo Zhu, who came from beyond the heavens, had appeared. Only then did the cultivators from all over the universe know some things about beyond the heavens. In the eyes of many cultivators, beyond the heavens was extremely mysterious and dangerous. Those who came from beyond the heavens were naturally peerless experts like the Luo Zhu. Even Dishu was no exception. Dishu had thought that Dong Xinzheng and Dong Xinrong, who came from beyond the heavens, were definitely peerless experts who surpassed the sovereigns, even if they were not as strong as the Luo Zhu. Su Fong could chase away two experts from beyond the heavens. How powerful was he? Dishu was originally rather proud of his identity, talent, and strength. However, at this moment, there was no arrogance in his heart. All that was left was reverence for Su Fong. Thinking of how he had targeted Meishiuro and Su Fong previously, Dishu's soul was trembling. He was afraid that Su Fong would settle the score with him now. Under Su Fong's forceful gaze, Dishu's legs went soft, and he knelt down in the air. I was blind to have offended Su Fong's saint and Miss May. Please punish me, saint. The Imperial People Elder also cupped his fists and bowed. Saint, please forgive him this time on account that he is young and ignorant and is favored by the Lord Dixuan. At the mention of Dixuan, Su Fong recalled that he had owed Dixuan many favors in the past. In addition, his grandfather's soul had been taken away, and he was feeling a little frustrated. He did not want to continue arguing, so he waved his hand and said, Forget it. On account of Dixuan, I will let you off this time. Dishu and the Imperial People Elder heaved a long sigh of relief, as if they had been pardoned. Seeing this scene, Meishiuro was shocked and sighed in her heart. In the face of powerful strength, all power was useless. She had no choice but to bow her head. His words are the law of the world, and no one dares to disobey him. This is a real man. Mei Shuiro's gaze towards Su Fong was filled with even more respect and adoration. Su Fong said to Go Li, take care of yourself in the 9 serenities. If there is a chance, I will return to the 9 serenities. Don't disappoint me. Yes, sir, Go Li replied as he knelt down. Su Fong released a divine aura that enveloped Mei Shuiro. Then, his body rapidly turned into nothingness and disappeared from the 9 serenities. Everyone felt as if a huge mountain had been removed from their hearts, and their bodies instantly became much more relaxed. They then left the yin-yang heavenly wheel. Su Fong took Mei Shuiro and used his ability to transcend the heavens and the earth to leave the 9 serenities and return to nature. He projected his ability at great perfection and instantly sensed the space-time of countless god realms. Let's rest for a while and recover to our peak state. Then, we'll fuse with Mei Ling Qi and try to form a yang meridian. Su Fong found a major world and absorbed Mei Shuiro into the world in his body. Then, the divine aura of the yin-yang world surged out from his body and formed a transcendent protective divine aura that pierced through the void. When Su Fong reappeared, he had arrived at a god realm. This was a god realm controlled by the Tao Defiance Alliance. There were over 1,000 minor worlds in the god realm. Unlike other god realms, this god realm was filled with abundant vitality. There was no desolation or deathly stillness caused by the upheaval of the world. However, Su Fong could sense that the life force contained an evil aura of death. It was caused by the natural changes of the world during the 7th mutation of the world. The upheaval of the world was not just a change on the surface. The entire heavenly Tao had been corrupted, and the laws of the heavenly Tao had also changed. All life forms in this god realm had gone against the heavenly Tao. They had gone from death to life, and they had become a world controlled by the evil god's will. The vitality actually contained an evil aura of death. All the cultivators, big goblin, and other life forms in the god realm, including the plants, had gone against the heavenly Tao and been reborn. If other life forms entered this god realm, they would eventually be assimilated by nature and lose their sense of self. They would become existences like the Tao Defiance. There's not much time left before the universe is completely devoured by the evil god. I have to hurry and enter the Palace of Advent, save Senior's sister, and then enter the exalted celestial mountain. Chapter 25-29. Su Fong arrived at a small realm in a flash. He found a group of mountains in the middle of a wetland and landed on the top of Tall Mountain. Su Fong was going to face the Moon Emperor and Wang Tian, the shepherd. Is it still possible to reign in a crab and a cowardly falcon? Alliance? Qi, Jie, Ashi. With so many experts and his own strength, Su Fong was not afraid even if the Tao-defying alliance sent a venerable emperor. Not to mention that the exalted emperors of the Tao Defiance Alliance and even the alliance master of the Tao Defiance had been scared out of their wits after the battle in the Two Realms River. So, if they knew that Su Fong was here, they wouldn't even be able to avoid him. How could they possibly dare to come here and give their lives away? Su Fong then created a formation on the top of the mountain and sat down cross-legged inside the formation. I'll heal my injuries first. Then, I'll use Mei Shuiro's Plum Spirit Qi to break through the 77th Yang Meridian. Su Fong made up his mind and took out the Universe Chariot. After activating this supreme time artifact, Su Fong flew to the seat and sat down cross-legged. Then, he took out a walnut-sized golden pill with his right hand. The pill emitted a strange fragrance and was filled with the aura of the Great Tao. It was covered with mysterious heavenly marks that intertwined to form a natural mountain. It was the exalted celestial mountain. It was not an ordinary pill. It was the mountain melting pill. Su Fong had plundered the mountain melting pill from the Pill Pagoda when he was in Yuan Tiangong's heavenly pivot hall. Di Yuan had put in a lot of effort to refine this pill. It was made with countless creation spiritual items, the aura of the exalted celestial mountain, and Di Yuan's blood essence. It was tailor-made for Di Yuan. Di Yuan had been dead for many years. The pill that he had asked the Duanmu Divine Clan's alchemy master to refine for him had ended up benefiting Su Fong. Now that we're lacking resources, this mountain melting pill will come in handy. Although Su Fong was only a lower chief god, it was extremely difficult for him to improve because he cultivated his own universe. The main reason was that the universe in his body was too vast. No matter how powerful the resources were, they were just a drop in the bucket for him. Su Fong estimated that in order for his heaven, earth, and universe to reach the grand completion stage, not only did he need to have a 9-9 yang meridian, he also needed to devour a large amount of energy. As for how much it would cost, Su Fong did not dare to imagine. His universe was at the same level as this universe. Even if he devoured this universe, the universe in his body would be able to contain it all. Ordinary spirit objects and resources were no longer of much use to Su Fong. Only the cultivation resources used by Emperor Realm Masters were of some use to him. QL11, Su Fong did not have many such resources on him. In order to recover as soon as possible, he had no choice but to take out the mountain fusion pill. After swallowing the mountain melting pellet, he made a hand seal with the Su Fong. The flesh, tendons, and bones inside his god body collapsed in a split second, turning into the blue sky underworld spring state, which was surging inside his body with the power of the heavenly Tao reincarnation. The mountain fusion pill quickly melted into the blood and was quickly sent to every corner of his god body. As expected of a supreme pill refined by the Duanmu Divine Clan for hundreds of thousands of years. As the pill's energy was quickly absorbed by Su Fong, it turned into life-blood chi and majestic energy, which was quickly absorbed by his body and the world tree. The life force and energy that Su Fong had consumed were recovering at an astonishing speed. Chi, an illusory image of the exalted, celestial mountain, appeared in Su Fong's body. This was because the mountain fusion pill had merged with the exalted celestial mountain's aura, and the mountain fusion pill was specially refined for Di Yuan. Su Fong did not have the bloodline of the imperial people, so the mountain fusion pill rejected him, causing the exalted celestial mountain's aura to leak out of his body and form the illusory image. However, Su Fong's heaven, earth, and universe contained all things in the world. The exalted celestial mountain's aura was also being devoured by the world in his body, constantly being absorbed by the world and turned into the power of the yin-yang world. About 2,000 years passed in the universe chariot. Su Fong seemed to have regained his former vigor. The life that he had lost was now completely recovered, and he had turned into a young man of 17 or 18 years old again. This meant that his life had reached its peak condition again. Not only had the yin-yang world's power that he had consumed in the heaven and earth Tao Palace been completely recovered, but he had also improved significantly. Although he was still far from reaching peak lower rank lord level, there was a very obvious improvement compared to before. Sensing the changes in his body, Su Fong revealed a smile and a relaxed expression on his face. Next, Su Fong did not rush to integrate Mei Shuero's plum spirit chi. Instead, he took out a crimson pearl. This pearl was not a pill. Instead, it was something that Su Fong had refined by devouring the Blood Sun projection with the Origin Holy Mirror during the great battle between the two realms. There were a total of 3 pearls. During the great battle, Su Fong had integrated 2 of them. Later on, he had given a portion of the 3rd to the Temple Emperor to help him recover his abilities. Now, he only had this little bit left. To Su Fong, breaking through the Yang Meridian was a huge matter. He had to make meticulous preparations. He planned to use the remaining Crimson Pearl, along with other spiritual items and pills, to cultivate the 9 Yang 9 transformations and cultivate the 77th Meridian. Then, he would use the Plum Spirit Chi as the catalyst for the birth of the Yang Meridian. Time flew like a shuttle within the Eternity Car's divine power of time. When Su Fong had swallowed the Crimson Pearl, as well as a large number of pills and spiritual items, and when the 77th Yang Meridian was about to be born, Su Fong ended his cultivation and leaped out of the Eternity Car. The exterior of the Eternity car had not changed at all since before Su Fong had entered it. Time seemed to have stopped. This was the power of the Eternity car's supreme, divine power of time. Then, Su Fong released Mei Shiwero from his inner world. Su Fong stared at Mei Shiwero. I told you before that your plum spirit chi is very useful to me. If you have any conditions, feel free to state them. Magic treasures, resources, or any other conditions. As long as I can do it, I will definitely satisfy you. Mei Shiwero looked at Su Fong boldly. Is that so? Su Fong nodded. I should be able to fulfill any condition you can think of in the myriad worlds. Mei Shiwero's eyes flashed with a fiery light. She said without hesitation, I don't want your magic treasures or resources. I only have one condition, and that is to become your Tao companion. Su Fong was startled. He immediately shook his head and smiled. I know what you're thinking, but I already have a Tao companion. Moreover, I don't have any other intentions towards you. This condition won't do. You can change it. The Golden Rainbow Monarch's mocking voice came from his inner world. Su Fong, are you a man or not? Such a great beauty has taken the initiative to throw herself into your arms. And you're actually refusing her? This guy was originally a thief. After his rebirth, his character still hadn't changed. Su Fong unceremoniously sealed the builder tree, making it difficult for the Golden Rainbow Monarch's voice to transmit. Mei Shiwero bit her lips and said, Could it be that you don't like my beauty? Su Fong said, Your beauty is devastatingly beautiful. You're not inferior to my Tao companion, Xuanxin. However, I, Su Fong, am definitely not a lustful person. It's enough for me to have Xuanxin in this life. Mei Shiwero fell into silence. After a long time, Mei Shiwero raised her head and looked at Su Fong. I don't want your resources or treasures, and I don't have any extravagant hopes of becoming your Tao companion. You just want me to stay by your side and become your mate. This condition shouldn't make things difficult for you, right? Unexpectedly, Su Fong still shook his head. No, you should change it again. What a joke. With such a great beauty by his side, how would he explain it to Xuanxin when he returned? Mei Shiwero's eyes became misty. Am I not even qualified to be your maid? It won't be long before the entire universe knows that I'm your woman. If I leave your side, the Tao Defiance Alliance won't let me go. Moreover, who would dare to want me in the future? I'll definitely be alone in the future. My mother is already dead, and I won't have any relatives in the future. As she spoke, Mei Shiwero started to sob. She looked like a pear blossom bathed in rain, and she looked very miserable. Su Fong's head started to ache. This time, he accidentally got himself into trouble again. Moreover, it was a trouble that no strength or power could solve. After pondering for a long time, Su Fong snorted coldly and said, How can I not understand your thoughts? Su Fong has never been threatened by anyone, and it's the same for you. I'll take your plum spirit energy. In exchange, I can keep you by my side. However, you won't be my concubine, but my subordinate. Mei Shiwero was surprised and delighted. Thank you, Saint's son Su Fong. No, thank you, Master. Su Fong continued. I'll provide you with resources and protect your safety. However, where you'll reach in the end will depend on your fate. No one can give you that. Remember my words, woman. No matter what, you have to rely on yourself. If you can't stand on your own, you can't rely on anyone else. Mei Shiwero's heart shook. She silently remembered Su Fong's words in her heart. After that, Su Fong asked about the plum spirit energy in detail. After pondering for a while, he started to absorb Mei Shiwero's plum spirit energy. It was actually very simple. It was just like yin-yang dual cultivation. Su Fong entered Mei Shiwero's body with his yang qi and fused it with her energy. Through yin-yang dual cultivation, he drew the plum spirit energy into his own body. The two of them sat cross-legged facing each other. After Mei Shiwero activated her divine essence, Su Fong released his yang qi and entered her body. Not long after this yin-yang dual cultivation state, a special energy that contained a weak demonic aura surged out from Mei Shiwero's body. It directly entered Su Fong's body and was absorbed by Su Fong's yang meridian. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The heaven and earth Tao palace suddenly shook. It was the meridian that was being attacked. It was about to condense into a yang meridian. The 77th yang meridian was about to be born successfully. It was a huge surprise as expected. Filled with joy, Su Fong activated the 9 yang, 9 transformations with all his might. All the energy started to attack the yang meridian that was about to be born. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The attack on the yang meridian caused the heaven and earth Tao palace to shake. It was as if the universe was burning crazily. Su Fong did not hesitate to activate the origin sacred realm. He absorbed the cold yin qi from within and absorbed it into his body, causing his yang qi to become even more profound. My cultivation has reached a critical moment. Go outside the array formation. Su Fong moved Mei Shiro out of the array formation. Although the yin-yang dual cultivation this time was short, it was an opportunity for Mei Shiro. She needed to quickly cultivate and digest Su Fong's yang qi. After countless attacks, at least thousands of them, Su Fong's heaven and earth Tao palace erupted with a huge commotion. Qi, a pure yang flame with a burning and explosive aura, swept through the 76th yang meridian and rushed into the 77th yang meridian that was being attacked. Pa! The yang meridian suddenly trembled and the pure yang Xian Guang bloomed. Immediately, the flame extinguished and the meridian turned into a jade-like yang meridian. Chapter 25:30. Su Fong was overjoyed that he had finally succeeded in condensing a yang meridian. The yang meridian was the source of Su Fong's strength. The birth of an additional yang meridian meant that Su Fong's cultivation speed and strength had undergone a huge transformation. I'm not far from a number of yang meridians. When I cultivate 81 yang meridians, it will be the time when my heaven and earth universe will reach perfection and I will truly transcend this universe. Apart from being overjoyed, the birth of the yang meridian also gave Su Fong great confidence. His current goal was no longer limited to the pinnacle of this universe. In the past, he was like a frog at the bottom of a well. Ever since he saw the scenery outside the well, his goal was to truly jump out of this narrow well and go to a wider world. It was not only because of his ambition. His grandfather's soul had fallen into Dong Xuanrong's hands. Su Fong had to go to the Jiuquan divine realm no matter what to save his grandfather. Suddenly, a commotion came from the origin sacred mirror in the heaven and earth Tao palace in his body. A wave of extremely cold qi surged out. Then, Shu Wanjin's faint voice rang out. Su Fong, I really didn't expect you to produce another yang meridian so quickly. Now that you have 77 yang meridians, it means that you're not far from the 9 sun transformations great circle. Senior sister, Su Fong's yang spirit entered the heaven and earth Tao palace and said respectfully. At this moment, he was also a peerless expert standing at the peak of the universe. However, no matter what, he always maintained his respect for Shu Wanjin. Shu Wanjin sighed. I didn't expect that in just a few 100,000 years, that little brat from the mortal world has now reached the peak of the cultivation Tao. Even I can't catch up. Receiving Shu Wanjin's praise, Su Fong was rather pleased. This is all thanks to Senior Sister's guidance. Then, Su Fong asked, Senior Sister, I'm about to enter the Advent God Palace to save you. Tell me about the Advent God Palace first. All right. Shu Wanjin was silent for a moment, then slowly explained to Su Fong. The Advent Divine Palace looks like a huge palace, but it actually has an extraordinary origin. Now it seems that the Advent Divine Palace should be from the exalted celestial mountain, and its name is clearly not the Advent Divine Palace. Su Fong secretly nodded. The origin of the name of the Advent Palace was because when it appeared, there was a resounding voice of the way of the heavens that called out Advent. Descend was the name of the evil god. The voice of the heavenly Tao that had shouted descend had most likely come from the heavenly Lord of creation. The reason he shouted the word Advent was obviously not because the name of the palace was Advent, but because he was calling out the name of the evil god. Shu Wanjin continued. From the exterior to the interior of the Advent Divine Palace, there are dangers everywhere. Back then, When I was chased by the G people, I was in a panic and accidentally escaped into the interior of the Advent Divine Palace. I was extremely lucky to be able to survive. Following which, Shu Wanjin told Su Fangyi about the dangers of the Advent God Palace. With Su Fang's current strength, there were very few people in the universe who could threaten his life. Even if he could not defeat them, he could still use his transcendence ability to escape. However, Su Fang did not dare to be careless about the Advent Divine Palace that came from the exalted celestial mountain. Even a true transcendence expert would not be able to shake the exalted celestial mountain. Su Fang memorized every word Shu Wanjin said about the dangers in his heart. In the midst of great dangers, there are often opportunities and opportunities of the same magnitude. The Advent Divine Palace is the same. Shu Wanjin was able to obtain the extreme inside of the Origin Sacred Mirror in the Advent Divine Palace, as well as the Supreme Fate Shrinking Technique. Naturally, there were great opportunities inside. However, Su Fang was not interested. Why was that? Su Fang did not lack any Dharma treasures now. He had the 9 Yang 9 transformations, the Fate Shrinking Technique, the Heaven's Divination Unravel, and other heaven-defying techniques and abilities. Naturally, he would not covet anything else. QL11 Shu Wanjin saw through Su Fang's thoughts and smiled faintly. Why? Has your vision now become so high that even Dharma treasures that surpass the divine creation artifact cannot catch your eye? Su Fang was shocked and overjoyed. His eyes lit up. Senior sister, you're saying that there are Dharma treasures that surpass the divine creation artifact in the Advent Divine Palace? I'm just guessing. When I first entered the Advent Divine Palace, my cultivation was still very low. There were some places that I could not reach at all. Just the aura that was released was enough to shock me to death. However, I'm guessing that since the Advent Divine Palace came from the exalted celestial mountain, there must be such Dharma treasures inside. There must also be many spiritual items that are hard to find in the myriad heavens and realms. Also, there must be some secrets hidden within the Advent Divine Palace. Shu Wanjin spoke tirelessly, causing Su Fang's heart to thump wildly. It was very difficult for him to raise his cultivation level now. He needed a long time to accumulate and consolidate, and what he lacked now was time. Whether it was to save Shu Wanjin or to find Dharma treasures that surpass the divine creation artifact in the Advent Divine Palace, or spiritual items that could help him raise his cultivation level rapidly, it was imperative for him to enter the Advent Divine Palace. Then, Shu Wanjin transmitted her thoughts to Su Fang. She formed a mental image model of what she knew about the Advent Divine Palace's exterior and interior environment and projected it into Su Fang's mind. Su Fang, I'll be waiting for you in the Advent Divine Palace. Shu Wanjin was about to end this exchange. Su Fang suddenly asked, Senior sister, do you know the origin of the Heaven's Secret Life Shrinking Technique? Shu Wanjin was surprised. The Heaven's Secret Life Shrinking Technique is a divine ability that I obtained in the Advent Divine Palace. I didn't pay much attention to it at first, thinking that it was an ordinary mental cultivation method to cultivate the Tao heart. In the end, when I was free, I studied it and realized that it was extraordinary. The Heaven's Secret Life Shrinking Technique was naturally created by the Genesis Heavenly Venerate. Why do you ask? Su Fang told Shu Wanjin about his encounter with the siblings Dongxian Zheng and Dongxian Rong, as well as Dongxian Rong's mastery of the Heaven's Secret Life Shrinking Technique and the Heaven's Derivation Solution. There's actually such a thing. Shu Wanjin was also very shocked. Then, she said slowly, it seems that the Heaven's Secret Life Shrinking Technique was not created by the Genesis Heavenly Venerate, but obtained from the outer world. With his supreme strength, it was naturally easy for him to go to the outer world. I didn't expect the Heaven's Secret Life Shrinking Technique to be so extraordinary. Su Fang said, I reckon that in the so-called Jiushuan Divine Domain, the Heaven's Secret Life Shrinking Technique and the Heaven's Derivation Solution are also supreme divine abilities. From this, I can deduce that in the Advent Divine Palace, there must be other treasures and divine abilities that came from the outer world. That's right. Therefore, in this trip to the Advent Divine Palace, you don't have to rush to save me. First, look for treasures, cultivation methods, or divine abilities. With these, you will have the means to fight against the experts from the outer world in the future. After ending the conversation with Xu Wanjin, Su Fong continued to cultivate the 9 changes to recover the yang qi that was consumed by the birth of the yang meridian. The consumption was very shocking, mainly because as the number of yang meridian increased, the heaven and earth Tao palace became more vast. Every time a yang meridian was born, the consumption would be even more shocking. It would take at least a few hundred years to recover. However, a few hundred years was just a snap of the fingers for a cultivator of Su Fong's level. At the same time, Su Fong also began to deal with some things left behind, especially the demon monkey. Originally, the demon monkey was only left with a remnant consciousness that Su Fong had brought from the outer world to the myriad worlds. Later, using his own blood and the demon monkey's consciousness as the consciousness, he created an immortal blood spirit. To Su Fong's surprise, the demon monkey actually rebelled and almost killed Luo. The demon monkey was extremely evil. It could continuously devour life and blood to quickly become strong. Moreover, it did not have the bottlenecks and shackles that cultivators would encounter. Su Fong could not bear to kill it, so he sealed it in his inner world to wear down its character. Only now did he start to deal with it. Sweeping the demon monkey out of his inner world, the demon monkey bared its teeth at Su Fong and let out a heart-trembling roar. It looked extremely evil and violent. If it was not sealed by Su Fong, it would probably pounce over and devour Su Fong. Su Fong snorted coldly and activated the shackles in the demon monkey's divine aperture. The demon monkey let out a blood-curdling scream, and the murderous glint in its eyes receded. Su Fong transmitted his thoughts to the demon monkey. You are just a remnant consciousness. Your consciousness is incomplete. I nurtured you to such heights, but you betrayed me after I perished. Now I'll give you two choices. Either you submit to me wholeheartedly, or I'll suppress you. The demon monkey let out another ferocious roar. Su Fong waved his hand, and a shackled essence spirit came out his palm. It was the essence spirit that Su Fong had kept after killing Heavenly Fire Divine Lord. Although Heavenly Fire Divine Lord's essence spirit was shackled, his consciousness was still present. He immediately begged Su Fong for mercy. Su Fong, let me go. I'm willing to be your slave and serve you forever. Su Fong said domineeringly, Be my slave? You no longer have that right. Take a look at who this is. This is the demon monkey that I once refined. Heavenly Fire Essence Spirit recognized the demon monkey at a glance and immediately exclaimed, Heavenly Fire, I swear to kill you. The demon monkey's eyes spewed out evil sanguine flames as it let out an earth-shattering roar. I nurtured you and helped you fulfill your wish. If you still refuse to submit, I have nothing to say. I'll suppress you. Su Fong bellowed domineeringly as he released the demon monkey's shackles. The freed demon monkey roared angrily as it sucked Heavenly Fire Divine Lord's essence spirit into its divine aperture. Violent and evil thoughts immediately drowned Heavenly Fire Divine Lord. After the demon monkey completely devoured Heavenly Fire Divine Lord's essence spirit, it no longer looked at Su Fong with ferocity. Instead, it was filled with subservience. It knelt down in front of Su Fong. Master! It was only at that moment that Su Fong had truly subdued the demon monkey. The demon monkey had survived until now because of its obsession to kill Heavenly Fire Divine Lord. Now, Su Fong had fulfilled its wish and eliminated its obsession. From then on, it was completely loyal to Su Fong. Su Fong planned on nurturing it into a powerful god of death. Through constant slaughter, it could rapidly increase its strength. Go, slaughter all the Tao defiance in this divine world. Su Fong sent a voice filled with killing intent to the demon monkey. Yes, master. Chapter 25:31. Not long after, the demonic monkey's evil, violent roars, shrill screams, and earth-shaking tremors came from the various small worlds. The Tao Defiants in this world seemed to be no different from ordinary people, but once they went against the Tao Defiants, they would become puppets under the control of the evil god. Besides possessing a life of their own, they were no different from living corpses. So, Su Fong didn't hold back at all, and it just happened to allow the monkey to slaughter them and improve its strength. There were many such worlds in the territory controlled by the Tao Defiant Alliance, and it was impossible to kill all of them. So, Su Fong wasn't really interested in killing these ordinary Tao Defiants. However, Su Fong's heart was filled with killing intent when his grandfather's soul had been taken away. So, the Tao Defiants in this world were unlucky to have been used by Su Fong as a tool to vent his anger. The demon monkey carried out a bloody slaughter in an all-powerful manner. Minor worlds were shattered into pieces while countless Tao Defiants were devoured by it, and its strength was rising swiftly as well. There were also some over-god-level Tao Defiants that had come from other worlds, but they were all killed by the monkey in the end. The slaughter was still going on. Su Fong continued to control the universe chariot, and he entered it to cultivate the 9 yang transformations to recover his yang energy. With his current strength, the universe chariot's might could be maintained for over 10,000 years after he activated it, whereas the time outside was in a frozen state. Such a divine artifact of time was truly miraculous and extremely formidable, and it saved Su Fong a huge amount of time. When Su Fong emerged from the universe chariot, the yang energy he consumed to form the 77th yang meridian had already recovered to its peak. At the same time, he was ceaselessly attacking the 78th yang meridian, and he didn't know how long it would take or what sort of fortune he would need to form it successfully. It's time to head to the Palace of Advent. Su Fong utilized his divine might and moved Mei Shiwuro, who was cultivating on a mountain ridge, into the formation. Even though Mei Shiwuro had lost her plum spirit energy, she'd obtained Su Fong's yang energy through dual cultivation, and it could be said to be a great fortune. Moreover, no one would covet her beauty and plum spirit energy with Su Fong by her side. Her only regret was that she was unable to become Su Fong's Tao companion as she wished. However, after being enlightened by Su Fong, she understood that she had to rely on herself for everything. She strengthened her Tao heart and focused on cultivation to improve her strength. Su Fong kept her in the inner space of the builder tree in his inner world and placed her in the 7th floor of the dojo, treating her the same as his other subordinates. As for what would happen in the future, it would depend on her own luck. Just as he was about to recall the demon monkey, the Moon Emperor, Gue, and Wang Tian were still engaged in a massacre, he suddenly realized something. Are you trying to stifle me? Ointment? Inflexible? Stool Lang? Neon Baking? Subdue Naji? Grayish Mantis? Spring Salary? Shixiang Gue, Meow? Chi Sword? You Huituan Nunnery? To stir up a ship in a state of panic, it turned out that he'd sensed a Tao-defying emperor appear in the void outside the god realm. It was a Tao-defiant that seemed no different from a human cultivator. His entire body was emaciated, and his withered skin was suffused with strange starlight. Judging from this person's aura, he should have just advanced into the emperor realm. This wasn't strange. As the world underwent another upheaval, the world naturally underwent a violent change, and even more fallen experts were resurrected. It was even to the extent that some experts who'd vanished in the annals of history and whose corpses and souls had vanished relied on the brand they'd left in the Heaven Tao and borrowed the power of the Blood Sun, Xieyang, to reconstruct their bodies and be resurrected. Even more Tao Defiants were rapidly improving their strength. There were countless Tao Defiants, and many of them were at the Overgod realm. So, it wasn't strange for 1 or 2 Emperor Realm experts to advance into the Emperor Realm. Su Fong secretly ordered the Moon Emperor hide in the shadows and prevent that Emperor Realm Defiant from escaping. I'll suppress him. Emperor Realm experts were peak existences in the universe. Even if it was a battle between Emperor Realm experts, it was easy to defeat one another, but it was extremely difficult to suppress or kill one another. Su Fong actually intended to suppress a Tao-defiant emperor. After transcending the world and advancing into the over-God realm, Su Fang's current strength was extremely formidable with all his supreme treasures. Bang! An aura rumbled as it descended and enveloped the surroundings. It enveloped the entire world that Su Fang resided in. In an instant, the world seemed to have transcended nature, and it had fallen into an independent universe. Starlight that was filled with boundless evil illuminated the entire space, and it formed a shocking shackle that caused the demon monkey to be unable to move. It turned out that the Tao-Defiant Emperor had made a move. He'd utilized the world within his body and absorbed the entire world into his world. Where did this monster come from? How dare you commit wanton slaughter in this king's territory? And there are even a few humans. Since you've come, then all of you shall become this king's food. The voice of the emaciated Tao-Defiant Emperor resounded through the world like the heaven Tao, and then rays of starlight descended from the sky like rivers of stars, and they swept towards Su Fang, the demon monkey, Gui, and the others. Hiss! An icy cold and ghastly white ray of light flashed. It carried a shocking aura of slaughter as it slashed apart the rivers of stars and tore apart the barrier of the Tao-Defiant Emperor's world. The God-slaying saber. Su Fang had obtained this magic treasure from the divine prison of heaven's law, and he rarely used it now. However, it didn't mean that the God-slaying saber's might was insufficient, and it was just that he didn't have many chances to use it. With Su Fang's current cultivation and the transformation of the violet chi spirit, his ability to control magic treasures had increased greatly. He was already able to utilize the God-slaying saber's full might, and the might of a single strike was sufficient to threaten the Tao-Defiant Emperor, who'd just advanced. The starlight that enveloped the world instantly dispersed, and everything returned to normal. The Tao-Defiant Emperor let out a shrill cry as his figure was revealed. He seemed to be completely unharmed, but the world within his body had actually been slashed apart by the God-slaying saber, so he was quite heavily injured. Su Fang utilized the ability of his body to attain perfection, and the bones and muscles on his face swiftly transformed. At the same time, strands of the energy of the Order of the Heaven, Tao, surged out from beneath his skin, and they swiftly condensed into a dark and gloomy mask that fused perfectly with his skin. His entire body instantly became extremely cold. The Tao-Defiant Emperor shouted in a low voice, Who are you? You actually possess such a shocking magic treasure, and why have you come to this king's territory? To kill you. Su Fang stepped into the air and pounced towards the Tao-Defiant Emperor. You're just a mere lesser Lord God, yet you dare to act so arrogantly before this king? The emaciated Tao-Defiant Emperor snorted disdainfully at Su Fang. In an instant, starlight shook, and he grabbed with his hand. The surging starlight transformed into a world cage that pressed down on Su Fang. Slap! Su Fang struck out with the ancestral devil blood plate, and it appeared above the Tao-Defiant Emperor's head. Black devil chi erupted and enveloped the Tao-Defiant Emperor, and the divine might of his origin spirit surged like a tsunami towards the Tao-Defiant Emperor. The ancestral devil blood plate. Such a powerful ancestral devil blood plate. You're Su Fang. Unexpectedly, the Tao-Defiant Emperor immediately recognized Su Fang's identity through the ancestral devil blood plate, and it scared him out of his wits. Dazzling starlight surged out from within his body, and it formed a shockwave and destructive aura that blasted the ancestral devil blood plate away. After that, the Tao-Defiant Emperor flashed with the intention of merging into the heavenly Tao and fleeing. At this moment, the temple's sovereign, who'd been hiding in the void since a long time ago, suddenly attacked. An extremely cold aura surged out from the void, and it enveloped the Tao-Defiant Emperor and his surroundings, forming a world of extreme coldness that made it impossible for the Tao-Defiant Emperor to escape. Meanwhile, Su Fang's second origin spirit shot out from between his brows, and it instantly appeared in the Tao-Defiant Emperor's head. With a slap, it forcefully and domineeringly drilled into the ocean within the Tao-Defiant Emperor's divine aperture. Under the pincer attack of the Tao Defiant Emperor's second origin spirit and the Temple Sovereign, the Tao Defiant Emperor's body was seized by the Tao Defiant Emperor's second origin spirit in just the time for an incense stick to burn. QL11 Su Fong took the Temple Sovereign and the others into his body, and he even sealed the Tao Defiant Emperor's world within his body. After that, he flew towards the Advent Divine Palace. The Tao Defiant Emperor's second origin spirit transmitted a thought. I've obtained some very useful information from the Tao Defiant Emperor's memories. Oh, since the Tao Defiant Emperor's second origin spirit thought it was useful, then it would definitely be of great use, and it instantly aroused Su Fong's interest. Su Fong's brows gradually knit together tightly once he finished reading the Tao Defiant Emperor's memories. It turned out that Su Fong found out from the Tao Defiant Emperor's memories that the Tao Defiant Alliance had retreated to the other side of the river after the seventh upheaval of the world had occurred during the war between the two realms, and they continued to consolidate their forces. At this moment, not only had they swiftly recovered their strength, but their overall strength was even stronger than before because a large number of experts had been revived. However, this wasn't the thing that made Su Fong frown. The thing that made Su Fong feel troubled was that the Tao Defiant Alliance had actually set their sights on the Advent Divine Palace. After the upheaval of the world, the Advent Divine Palace seemed to have undergone quite a huge change. Moreover, the clone that had descended into the myriad of worlds seemed to have some other objective, and it was precisely for the Advent Divine Palace. At this moment, the clone had led many experts of the Tao Defiant Alliance to the Advent Divine Palace. Because the Tao Defiant Emperor that Su Fong had suppressed had just advanced into the Emperor realm not long ago, he hadn't entered the higher-ups of the Tao Defiant Alliance, and the information he knew about the higher-ups was limited. So, he didn't know exactly what the clone intended to do in the Advent Divine Palace. Looks like this trip to the Advent Divine Palace won't be so easy. Su Fong felt enormous pressure. The clone possessed the strength of a Transcendence Realm expert. Perhaps it was because Su Fong had destroyed the Blood Sun projection during the war between the two realms, causing the clone's strength to decline greatly. Moreover, it was very difficult for him to stay in the myriad of worlds for too long. However, Su Fong had no choice but to be fearful of the clone's strength. After that, Su Fong activated the Universe River Chariot and sped up towards the Advent Divine Palace. As for the corpse of the Tao Defiant Emperor, Su Fong split it into two and gave the other half to the Demon Monkey and Gue to devour, so as to swiftly improve their strengths. After all, it was an Emperor Realm expert, and the Tao Defiant's vitality and blood was boundless after being reborn. So, if the Demon Monkey and Gue devoured it, then their strengths would definitely rise explosively once more. As for the remaining half, Su Fong refined it into blood crystals and balls of energy to cultivate. The vitality and energy of the Tao Defiance were completely different from other living beings. It contained the evil energy that could reverse life and death. Besides Su Fong, Gue, and the Demon Monkey, it was very difficult for the other cultivators, Big Goblin, and Devils to fuse with it. Huff, the Universe River Chariot, transcended the restraints of time and passed through boundless space before it appeared in an icy cold and desolate expanse of space. When he looked over, a boundless palace floated in the void in a crooked manner. Even though it was damaged, it was still extremely grand and magnificent, and it emanated a form of supreme dignity. Moreover, it was extremely huge to the point it gave others the feeling that it was boundless, and it was like a world that transcended the heavens and the earth. Chapter 25:32. Upon closer inspection, the Advent Divine Palace was clearly different from before. The Guardian of the Mountain had used the power of the Celestial Worthy Mountain to create a huge canopy that separated the heavens and realms into two halves. However, the canopy could not exist within an area of more than 100 million miles outside the Advent Divine Palace. It was obvious that the power of the Advent Divine Palace was not something that even a transcender could surpass. The Advent Divine Palace now looked more dilapidated. One could see a towering white palace wall that was piled up with jade stones to form a strong barrier. There were a total of 3 layers that separated the Advent Divine Palace. Inside the palace, lifeless yellow clouds floated. From time to time, a dazzling divine light would flash by. Su Fong projected his perfect sensing ability and could sense that the palace walls, yellow clouds, and the divine light that flashed by contained a great power that made even him tremble in fear. Obviously, the recent changes in the heavens and earth had triggered the restrictions inside the Advent Divine Palace and caused it to fall into a state of extreme chaos. In this way, the interior of the Advent Divine Palace must be even more dangerous. Moreover, the routes that Xu Wanjin had given Su Fong to enter the Advent Divine Palace were all useless. Not only the restrictions that had been triggered, Su Fong also sensed that the entire Advent Divine Palace was permeated with a strange aura. It was not the deathly aura of the evil god's descent, nor was it the heavenly way origin aura unique to the celestial worthy mountain. It did not even belong to this part of the universe, and was a high-level energy that surpassed this part of the universe. Why is there a high-level energy that surpasses this part of the universe in the Advent Divine Palace? Could it be that the Advent Divine Palace really contains a peerless magic treasure or spiritual object from beyond the heavens? Su Fong guessed incessantly in his heart, but he could not guess the reason. The yellow clouds floating inside the Advent Divine Palace overflowed from the palace walls to the outside, causing the floating ruins and dilapidated buildings outside the palace to be covered by a thin layer of yellow clouds. Su Fong sensed many auras on the floating objects and dilapidated buildings a little further away. There were many cultivators and big goblin, numbering in the thousands. Among them, there was no lack of true experts. There were many peerless master gods and even a few venerable sovereigns from different forces. Moreover, there were a few familiar auras that caused the Heaven's Secret Life, shrinking technique, Dao runes to flash rapidly. Goddess Luo, Celestial Treasure, Yi Tianyang, Lord Tru Yang, Brahma Monarch. Su Fong took out a rune talisman and transmitted his thoughts to Goddess Luo. Goddess Luo, why have you come to Advent God Palace? Not long later, Goddess Luo's voice that was filled with surprise and joy came from the rune talisman. Su Fong, you actually came to the Advent God Palace? Quickly come over. Treasures will appear at any time. Don't miss it. A treasure will appear? Su Fong was not surprised and flew towards the floating object where Goddess Luo was. As soon as he appeared, he immediately attracted a lot of attention. As Su Fong knew that his clone had also arrived at the Advent Divine Palace, he covered his face with a mask and deliberately used his divine power to change his aura, suppressing his cultivation level to the late-stage Dao integration realm. At this moment, even venerable sovereigns would find it difficult to discover Su Fong's true identity. After sensing Su Fong's body, they did not pay much attention to him. Goddess Luo occupied a floating object that was only 100 feet in size and created a barrier on it. Su Fong passed through the array and saw Goddess Luo inside the barrier. Goddess Luo was still dressed in black, but she wore a cloak that covered her face completely, making her look rather mysterious. Su Fong? Goddess Luo looked at Su Fong warily. Who else could it be other than me? Su Fong said. He released a little of his original aura, and Goddess Luo let down her guard. It really is you, Goddess Luo said faintly. After a moment of silence, Goddess Luo took the initiative to say, I heard from Godfather that you fought with Dong Xianzheng in the 9th Underworld. Su Fong's eyes quickly turned cold. Dong Xianzheng is your future Dao partner? Yes, Goddess Luo sighed, but she seemed to be hiding something and was unwilling to say more. She then said apologetically, I've implicated you, causing your family's soul to be taken away by Dong Xianrong. Su Fong asked in a deep voice, Dong Xianzheng might be targeting me because of a misunderstanding, or maybe it's not a misunderstanding at all. Our memories and fates have been changed by someone, and that person is your godfather, Ancestor Luo. However, how did Dong Xianzheng find out? Goddess Luo shuddered. Su Fong continued, Obviously, it was ancestor Luo who instigated Dongxian Zheng to find me, wanting to borrow his hand to kill me, or perhaps he wanted to borrow my hand to kill Dongxian Zheng. My guess is correct, right? Su Fang might not have cultivated for long, but from a small world to the myriad of worlds, he had experienced countless storms and seen countless schemes and schemes. How could Su Fang not see through the clues as to why Dongxian Zheng would come looking for him and look as if he had been cuckolded? Su Fang's heart surged with a sharp aura. Ancestor Luo wiped my memories and fate, and this time he secretly instigated Dongxian Zheng. I will settle this score with him one day. I, Su Fang, am not some weakling. My fate is easily tampered with by others, and I will not tolerate being toyed with by others. Even if it's a transcendence, I will not allow it. The atmosphere within the barrier became heavy and oppressive. Su Fang knew that this had nothing to do with Goddess Luo. Goddess Luo had an inexplicable fate and karma with him, and Goddess Luo was the same as him. Their fates were controlled by others. Thinking of the biscuit sealed in the depths of his memories, Su Fang suddenly felt a piercing pain in his heart. After settling down for a moment, Su Fang's gaze became resolute. He said in a low voice, "Soon, I will find the memories and fate that were wiped away, so that our fates will not be deceived. As for Dongxian Zheng and that Dongxian Rong, no matter what their identities are, I will kill them." Goddess Luo quickly dissuaded him. "You have no idea how terrifying the faction behind Dongxian Zheng is. You must not have any thoughts of killing Dongxian Zheng." Su Fang said domineeringly, "He stopped my loved ones' souls from reincarnating, and he even took them away. This means that he is destined to die. Besides, who is he? He is just a fanatic who only knows how to rely on his identity. What right does he have to snatch a woman from Su Fang?" Goddess Luo's face under the cloak instantly turned crimson red. "When did I become your woman? Why are you so overbearing?" Su Fang said, "Although your adoptive father wiped away our fates and memories, I have mastered the divine power of fate. Besides, I have already severed my karma with this world and obtained transcendence. What happened in the past, the fates that we experienced, no one can change them. It will be restored sooner or later. I can already sense that you were once my woman. Dongxian Zheng snatched my woman. That is a capital offense. Although I hate Dongxian Zheng, before I came to this world, I had a marriage agreement with him." Goddess Luo was speechless. However, looking at the overbearing man in front of her, she felt an inexplicable warmth in her heart. The Golden Rainbow King, who was in the builder tree space within Su Fang's body, lamented, "Dongxian Zheng, this brat, I don't know what kind of bad luck he has to have been cuckolded by you. He's already unlucky enough, but you still want to kill him. What a pitiful fellow." The atmosphere that was a little gloomy earlier suddenly became ambiguous again. Goddess Luo quickly changed the topic. "Are you also here for the treasures in the Advent God Palace?" At the mention of treasures, Su Fang's spirits were lifted. "How do you know there are treasures in the Advent God Palace?" "You don't know?" Goddess Luo was surprised. Then she said, "You went to the 9 Serenities recently. It's normal that you don't know about the big things that happened in the Advent God Palace." It turned out that ever since another blood sun rose into the sky, the Advent Palace had also undergone changes. From the inside of the Advent God Palace, a shocking power was ejected. Along with it, there were many corpses of experts who had entered the Yuan Tiangong to search for treasures and died. There were also some incomplete jade slips, magical treasures, and spiritual items that flew out of the Advent God Palace and were obtained by some deities. Although they were incomplete, they were all profound energy arts that had long been lost in the universe. There were also fragments of ancient treasures and spiritual items of good fortune. At this time, cultivation resources were scarce in the universe. It was increasingly difficult for cultivators and big goblins to improve. Therefore, many cultivators and big goblins were attracted to the Advent God Palace to search for treasures. Even experts from the Tao Defiance Alliance came. However, they were on the other side of the Advent God Palace and couldn't pass through the dangerous areas to reach the human cultivators. However, these treasures were not easy to obtain. The yellow clouds floating outside the Advent Palace contained an astonishing amount of energy. Regardless of whether it was a cultivator, a great demon, or even the devil tribe, or any other existence, once they fell into the yellow clouds, they would be shackled and their strength would be suppressed to the point of dissipation. If they were lucky, they could break out of the shackles, but if they were unlucky, they would be trapped to death. This was just outside the walls of the Advent God Palace. There were many restrictive spells inside the palace that were triggered by the strange power. In addition, the shackles of the yellow clouds were even more terrifying. Not even venerable sovereigns would dare to enter. Fortunately, every few hundred years, the yellow cloud-like thing would dissipate into the world and become thinner, greatly reducing the danger level. Then, after a few dozen years, there would be another eruption. These dozen or so years between eruptions were the best time for treasure hunters to find treasures. Su Fong asked in surprise, "What are those yellow clouds? What is it that is erupting from the inside of the Advent God Palace?" Goddess Luo used nascent spirit voice transmission instead. Those yellow clouds are actually substances formed by energy from beyond the heavens. Furthermore, it is not ordinary energy from beyond the heavens. It is the pure essence of the world beyond the heavens. Life in this universe cannot withstand it. Once trapped, it is very difficult to escape. In the end, they will be trapped and die. Su Fong understood a little. Could it be that there's a treasure from beyond the heavens in the Advent God Palace that is constantly erupting with energy? Goddess Luo replied, "It is not a treasure, but is much more powerful than ordinary treasures. My adoptive father estimated that there must be a world fragment from the Jiuquan divine realm sealed in the depths of the Advent God Palace. Due to the changes in the heavens and earth, the seal was broken, causing the energy to erupt." Su Fong was shocked. What kind of palace is this Advent God Palace? There's a world fragment from beyond the heavens inside. Chapter 25:33. A world fragment from Jiuquan's God realm? It should be extraordinary. Su Fong licked his lips, his eyes shining with vigor. A world fragment was the initial substance of a world. It was the essence of a world's birth, possessing unparalleled mystery and power. Su Fong's tree of world was obtained from a world fragment from a microcosm and cultivated step by step. Together with the Yang Meridian, it formed his Taoist palace of heaven and earth, forming his universe. A world fragment from Jiuquan's God realm must be extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. Su Fong estimated that only with a world fragment from Jiuquan's God realm could one truly gain a foothold in the chaotic void beyond the heavens. Previously, Xu Wanjin had guessed that there was a treasure from beyond the heavens in the Shrine of Advent, but she did not expect it to be a world fragment. He reckoned that the descending avatar had come to the Advent Shrine for the world fragment as well. Su Fong then asked, "It's not the first time I've heard of Jiuquan's God realm. Where does it belong to beyond the heavens?" His grandfather's soul had been captured by Dong Xuanrong, so he had to understand more about beyond the heavens to prepare for his trip there in the future. Jiuquan's God realm is a general term for the God realm beyond the heavens. The God realm beyond the heavens is vast and boundless. There are no space restrictions and no end of time. It's a real universe. In the Jiuquan's God realm, there are universes and spaces built by countless experts. There are also countless naturally formed lands of doom and peril. There are also countless races and strange existences. According to different regions, the God realm beyond the heavens is divided into 9 parts, which is the so-called Jiuquan. My foster father and I are from Dongxian. Dongxianzheng and Dongxianrong are from Dongxian as well. They were given the surname Dongxian as a form of recognition for their talent and identity. Their status in Dongxian is extraordinary. Su Fong only understood after Goddess Luo's explanation. Goddess Luo, Patriarch Luo, Dongxianzheng, and Dongxianrong came from Dongxian. Then, Shixian Daozu came from Shixian and was a supreme existence in Shixian. It was no wonder that Dongxianzheng and Dongxianrong revered him. One day, I will truly surpass this part of the universe and gallop through the vast Jiuquan divine realm. Su Fang's mind unfurled a grand picture scroll of the outer heavens, and his mind was filled with a sense of longing. Then Su Fang asked in confusion, if the world fragment in Jiuquan is so important, why didn't your godfather come personally? Those emperor masters don't seem to be many either. Although foster father's strength is strong and above that of a venerable sovereign, he is still from the outer world. If he uses his strength, he will be rejected by the heavenly way. Furthermore, the Palace of Advent is not a simple place. Not only is it filled with danger, even Godfather has to be wary of it. If he uses a powerful ability, it might even trigger a series of uncontrollable changes. The possibility of venerable sovereigns dying is very high. In addition, Godfather is also an expert who cultivates the world fragment, so he didn't come to the Palace of Advent. He even issued a warning to the strongest of the imperial people, asking him to restrain the venerable sovereigns from entering the Palace of Advent. Goddess Luo didn't hide anything and told Su Fang everything in detail. Su Fang asked again, "You must have come to the Palace of Advent for the world fragment, right?" Goddess Luo shook her head and said, "I don't plan to obtain the world fragment. As long as I can find something that contains the world origin force of the Jiuquan divine realm in the outer two levels of the Palace of Advent to cultivate the heavenly way core, I will be satisfied." Then she solemnly exhorted, "I advise you not to have any ideas about the world fragment. It must be in the core of the Palace of Advent and is filled with danger. Even venerable sovereigns will die if they enter." Su Fang smiled faintly and did not tell Goddess Luo the truth. He came to the Palace of Advent this time to put the treasures aside. The most important thing was to rescue Shu Wanjin. Shu Wanjin was trapped in the heavenly chessboard in the depths of the Palace of Advent. To rescue her, Su Fang had to go deep into the Palace of Advent no matter what. It would be best if he could obtain the world fragment, but if he couldn't, there was nothing to be regretful about. Next, Su Fang and Goddess Luo communicated inside the barrier. Gradually, the feeling of déjà vu became more and more real. At the same time, Su Fang also paid attention to the movements outside the Palace of Advent. Outside the Palace of Advent, more and more cultivators came to search for treasures. When Su Fang first came, there were only a little over 1,000 people. In less than 5 years, there were almost 100,000 gods gathered. Moreover, all of them were experts. The lowest cultivation level was at the hierarch realm. There were also many overgod realm experts. However, there were very few venerable emperors. Other than venerable Emperor Zhenyang and Brahma Di, 2 more venerable emperors came one after another. One of them was a red-haired old man. Su Fang was no stranger to him. He was the supreme venerable emperor from the fire god Zhu clan. Behind the supreme venerable emperor from a Zhu clan, there was another young talent. Su Fang was no stranger to him. This person was Su Fang's in-name disciple, Zhu Yan. At this time, Zhu Yan was already a peak divine emperor realm cultivator. Naturally, he was nothing in Su Fang's eyes. However, such a speed of improvement was quite extraordinary in the myriad worlds. The yellow clouds that floated outside the Palace of Advent were quickly disappearing into nature. The yellow clouds became fainter and fainter. Some areas that were previously covered by the yellow clouds gradually revealed many corpses. They were all cultivators who had entered the Palace of Advent to search for treasures. They died inside the Palace of Advent and were swept out by the eruption of the world fragment's power. Most of the cultivators' corpses were incomplete. Some were even reduced to skeletons. As the yellow clouds dissipated, other than the corpses of the gods, there were also some broken jade slips, magic treasures, and spiritual items. Some of them came from the fallen gods, while others came from the interior of the Palace of Advent. QL11, the appearance of these treasures immediately gave rise to a scramble for them. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Countless gods and powerful big goblin pounced on the corpses and treasures. In front of the treasures, everyone revealed their greedy and ruthless side. Plundering, sneak attacks, and scenes of fierce fighting took place outside the Palace of Advent. However, the venerable emperors and most of the king gods did not participate. Su Fong and Goddess Luo did not move either. This was just the beginning. The closer they were to the walls of the Palace of Advent, the more valuable the treasures were. Only then would such experts be willing to take action. After more than 3 months, more than half of the yellow clouds near the palace walls had dissipated. At this time, even the venerable emperors could not sit still and took action. First, they wanted to snatch the magic treasures, and second, they wanted to find the way into the Palace of Advent. Let's split up and search for treasures. Then, we will enter the Palace of Advent. If you encounter any danger, contact me at any time. Su Fong reminded Goddess Luo. Then, he passed through the barrier and headed straight for the palace walls. With his current strength, even an ordinary divine weapon of creation was nothing in his eyes. However, no one would complain about having too many treasures. It would be good to snatch more treasures for the experts under his command. Su Fong appeared not far from the palace walls, in an area shrouded in quicksand-like dust. There was a white skeleton floating there. From the weak aura left, it could be seen that it was a king god. Logically speaking, even if a peerless king god had fallen, his corpse could be preserved for several epochs. Even if his inner world was broken, it could still be preserved for a longer period of time. No one knew what the overgod had encountered in the Advent God Palace. Not only had his flesh and blood vanished, but even the world in his body had been reduced to nothingness. A storage ring and a king-grade flying sword floated beside him. Su Fong unleashed a wave of divine might and collected the storage ring and the king-grade flying sword. Next, Su Fong collected more than a dozen storage rings in succession. There were also many magic treasures below the king-grade. Unfortunately, none of them came from the Palace of Advent. Su Fong did not care for these magic treasures and directly threw them to his subordinates in the builder tree. Just as Su Fong sucked a magic treasure that was half-divine weapon of creation into his hand, a young man at the Tao Integration pinnacle stage attacked him from the right. That half-divine weapon of creation is mine. Hand it over, and I will spare your life. A mere Tao Integration realm, Ant dares to snatch my treasure? Su Fong sneered disdainfully. Divine might shot out from his eyes and turned into a palm print. Like swatting a fly, he swatted the Tao Integration realm young man away. Then, Su Fong flew toward the palace walls of the Palace of Advent, ready to look for a gap in the restriction to enter the Palace of Advent. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The purple cloud Dharma spirit suddenly erupted in the depths of his body. Could there be a magic treasure that can make the purple cloud Dharma spirit so excited? With the purple cloud Dharma spirit's transformation and the increase in Su Fong's strength, there were not many treasures that could make it excited. The sudden eruption of the purple cloud Dharma spirit, which had been silent for a long time, meant that there was a treasure nearby. Moreover, it was not an ordinary magic treasure. It was at least a divine weapon of creation. Su Fong scanned the area with his perfect vision and found the treasure that made the purple cloud Dharma spirit move. Thousands of feet away, close to the palace wall, there was a yellow cloud that had not dissipated. He could vaguely see a black lid floating inside the yellow cloud. It looked like the lid of a magic treasure, like a cauldron. It was only the size of a palm and did not look special. He did not know why it could make the purple cloud Dharma spirit move. Su Fong flashed to the periphery of the yellow cloud and sent a thought to the purple cloud Dharma spirit. Zi, are you sure this is an extraordinary magic treasure? Zi's slightly tender voice came from within his body. Yes, master. The aura of this magic treasure is very strange. It does not seem to be an item of this world. However, I can be sure that it is definitely a peerless magic treasure. Su Fong naturally believed in the judgment of the purple cloud Dharma spirit. Therefore, he used his perfect ability to try to sense the lid. Unfortunately, Su Fong's perfect sensing ability could not penetrate the inside of the yellow cloud. However, Su Fong also saw that the yellow cloud around the lid had not dissipated because it was attracted by the lid. It seemed that the lid had a power that made it difficult for the yellow cloud to dissipate. Su Fong wrapped his palm with the power of the world of yin and yang and carefully reached out to the yellow cloud. He wanted to see if the power of the world of yin and yang could merge with the yellow cloud that contained the power of outer space. Suddenly, a thunderous roar came from afar. A mere Tao integration realm cultivator, like an ant, wants to possess such a treasure? Get lost. As soon as the voice came, a cold and fierce divine power swept over.